Chosen one, stop. Do not scroll, because last night, while you were asleep, something happened, and you still do not know what it was. I am not speaking in riddles. Something shifted in the unseen world, something concerning you specifically, something heaven had been preparing for a long time, and it moved while you slept. And you woke this morning with no idea that anything had changed. And here is what will unsettle you if you let it. This is not the first time. Heaven has been doing this for years, moving on your behalf, seeing something about you, waiting for you to notice. And every time, you have slept through it, not because you were careless, but because the faculty inside you that was built to perceive these things has been quietly dimmed, until even the largest movements of heaven pass through you unregistered. Heaven saw something about you, something real, something already true, something it has been waiting, with a patience you cannot imagine, for you to finally see for yourself. And the only reason you have not seen it is that the eyes that would see it have been closed, not by heaven, but by something else. So before you decide whether to stay, ask yourself one honest question. If heaven has already seen the truth of who you are, and has been waiting years for you to realize it, and the only thing standing in the way is a dimmed inner sight that can be repaired, would you want to know what it saw? Because that is what the rest of this is going to show you, and by the end, you will finally know what happened last night. Stay with me. If something just stirred in you, that stirring is the first sign your sight is already waking. I want to speak to a particular loneliness first, because I know it is there, underneath the ordinary surface of your days. It is the loneliness of feeling unremarkable. You look at your life, and it seems small. You look in the mirror, and you see someone tired, someone who has not become what they hoped, someone ordinary. And you have made a quiet peace with that, the way people do, telling yourself that extraordinary lives are for other people and that yours is simply the one you got. But underneath the peace there is an ache, a sense that this cannot be all of it, a whisper that says, there is something more to you that you have never been able to find. If that ache lives in you, I need you to hear something carefully, because it is the beginning of everything I have to tell you. That ache is not a delusion of grandeur. It is not you wanting to be special when you are not. That ache is the faint pressure of a truth about yourself that heaven can see clearly and you can only feel as a rumor. You are not aching for something that is not there. You are aching for something that is entirely there, that has always been there, that heaven has seen in full, and that you have never once been able to lay eyes on, because the faculty that would let you see it has been dimmed. Let me make the distinction as sharp as I can, because your whole sense of yourself turns on it. There is a difference between a person who is ordinary and a person who is extraordinary but cannot perceive it. From the inside, they feel identical. Both of them look in the mirror and see someone unremarkable. But they are not the same, and the difference is everything. One of them actually is what they see. The other is carrying something vast and luminous that their own dimmed sight cannot detect. So they walk around convinced they are small, while heaven watches, astonished that they cannot see what is so obvious from where it stands. Chosen one, you are the second person, and you concluded, understandably, that the smallness you see in the mirror is the truth about you, because seeing is believing, and you could not see anything else. But your seeing has been compromised. The mirror was never the problem. Your eyes were. And heaven has spent years watching you look at a luminous thing and call it ordinary, waiting, aching, for the day your sight would clear enough to finally see what it has seen all along. Let me tell you what I mean when I say, heaven saw something about you. There is a way we imagine that heaven looks at us and sees mostly our failures, a ledger of where we fell short, a record of disappointment. But that is not the picture the sacred writings give. They give the picture of a heaven that sees the true self underneath the failures, the self that was there before the wounds, the self that is being formed through them, the self that no amount of falling short has ever erased. Heaven does not look at you and see mainly your failures. It looks at you and sees the thing it placed in you before you were born. Still there, still luminous, waiting to be realized. And that is what it saw about you. Not a hope for who you might become if you finally get your act together. A fact about who you already are. Right now, underneath everything you think disqualifies you. A specific weight of calling, a specific kind of light, a specific role in a story much larger than your small tired days. All of it, already true, already placed in you, already seen and treasured by heaven, and completely invisible to you, because you have been looking with dimmed eyes at a self too bright for them to register. I want you to try to feel, for just a moment, that this might be true about you, because the feeling itself is important. Somewhere in you, right now, as I describe a luminous self that heaven has seen and you have not, there is a flicker. A part of you that wants to dismiss it, that says this is not for me, I am the exception, I really am just ordinary. And underneath that dismissal, quieter, there is something else. A recognition. A sense that maybe, just maybe, the ache you have carried your whole life was never neediness but memory. The memory of a self you have not seen since you were very young. If that flicker of recognition is in you, even faintly, I want you to do something with it instead of talking yourself out of it the way you always do. Type 2 words where you are watching from. Type, I felt it. Not I believe it fully. Not I am certain. I felt it, meaning the flicker, the recognition, the faint pressure of a self you cannot yet see. Say it with your hands, because naming a stirring is how you keep it from evaporating, and this particular stirring is the most important one of your life, and it has evaporated 100 times before because you never once named it. Now let me take you into the mechanism, because I promised you would learn what happened last night, and I do not want to leave you with only a beautiful idea. Beautiful ideas fade by morning. What holds is when you understand how the thing actually works, how it is possible for a person to carry a luminous self and be blind to it, and how that blindness gets healed. So stay with me through something a little more careful, because on the other side of it, the smallness you have believed about yourself starts to come apart, and the self heaven saw starts to come into view. Here is the mechanism. Inside you there is a faculty of perception, and part of its job is to let you see yourself truly, to perceive not just your surface, but the deeper reality of who you are. In childhood, this faculty runs at full. Watch a child who has not yet been told they are ordinary. A child carries an unself-conscious sense of their own significance, a natural knowing that they matter, that they are wonderful, that they are the center of a story worth telling. That is not arrogance. That is a perception faculty running at full, seeing the truth that the child is, in fact, a luminous and significant being. Every one of you had that sight once, and then, slowly, it was dimmed. Not by one event, but by the accumulated weight of a world that teaches you to stop seeing yourself as significant. You were told, in 1,000 small ways, that you were ordinary, that you should not think too much of yourself, that the significant life belonged to others. And to survive in that world, you turn down the faculty that perceives your own significance, because seeing a luminous self while being treated as ordinary was too painful a contradiction to hold. So you dimmed the sight. You learned to see yourself as small, because small was what the world could handle, and small was what stopped the ache. And the dimming worked. It stopped the ache, and it also blinded you to the truth of who you are. Let me give this its name, because you have been calling it humility or realism, and it is neither. It is a setting, a dimmed setting on the faculty that perceives your own true self. And I am going to call it exactly that. The dimmed sight. Not blindness to the world, but blindness to yourself, to the luminous significance that heaven sees plainly and you cannot detect at all. Say it once. The dimmed sight. Because the moment you can name it as a setting and not the truth about you, you have already begun to reach for the dial that turns it back up. And this is why I can tell you, without flinching, that heaven has seen something extraordinary about you, even though you feel ordinary. Because feeling ordinary is not evidence that you are ordinary. It is evidence that your sight is dimmed to your own significance. The two feel identical from the inside, which is the whole cruelty of it. But they could not be more different. One would mean you really are small, and there would be nothing to do. The other means you are luminous and cannot see it, and there is everything to do, because a dimmed sight can be restored, and a self that was there all along can finally be perceived. I have to be honest with you about something before we go further, because if I skip it, everything after will work at a fraction of its power. There is a reason the dimming held on so long, a reason you could not simply decide to see yourself differently, no matter how many times you tried. There is something specific that has been keeping the dial turned down, keeping you blind to the self heaven saw, and it is not your unworthiness, and it is not heaven withholding. When I show you what it is, some of you are going to feel a relief so sharp it startles you, because you will finally understand that your blindness to your own worth was never the truth about your worth. Stay with me. That is exactly where we go next, and it is where the mystery begins to open. Here is what has been keeping the dial turned down. The dimming does not hold on its own. Something reinforces it. Every time you begin to see yourself more truly, a force reaches in and turns the sight back down before the vision can complete. And for years you assumed that force was reality itself, the hard facts of your ordinary life, correcting your foolish moment of thinking you were more. You would catch a glimpse of your own significance, feel a flush of something like hope about who you might be. And then a voice would rise and say, "Do not be ridiculous. Look at your life. Look at your failures. Who do you think you are?" And you called that voice honesty. It was not honesty. It was interference wearing the mask of honesty. I want you to understand this clearly, because it has robbed you of yourself for years. There is a resistance that concentrates specifically on people who carry something significant. It does not waste its energy on people who genuinely are ordinary and content to be, because they threaten nothing. It concentrates on the ones who carry a luminous calling, because those are the ones whose awakening would change things, and the single most efficient way to neutralize a significant person is not to strip away their significance, which cannot be done, but to keep them blind to it, so they carry something world-changing their whole lives and never once pick it up. Feel what that means about your life. If you have felt most strongly that you are ordinary precisely in the seasons you were closest to some larger sense of purpose, that is not a coincidence, and it is not the truth correcting you. It is a signature. The blindness has been heaviest exactly where your significance is greatest, because that is where keeping you blind does the most damage. Your sense of being ordinary is not proof that you are ordinary. It is proof that you carry something worth blinding you to. You do not work this hard to keep someone from seeing a thing of no value. The intensity of your blindness is a measure of the brightness it is hiding. Let that begin to overturn the verdict you have carried your whole life. You have believed the smallness you see is the truth about you. The truth is nearly the opposite. The smallness was manufactured, reinforced, defended, precisely because what it hides is so large. You have been kept blind to a luminous self, and the effort required to keep you blind is itself the proof of how luminous that self must be. No one guards an empty vault. The guard on your sight tells you what is behind it. Some of you just felt something shift, a loosening, maybe even a flush of tears, and I felt it, even though I cannot see it. That is a verdict beginning to overturn. You have spent your whole life believing you were ordinary, and in the space of a few sentences you have been shown that your sense of being ordinary may be the most manufactured thing about you, deliberately maintained precisely because what it conceals is so significant. That is a completely different diagnosis. Ordinariness has no cure, and needs none. A manufactured blindness has an obvious cure. You clear the sight. Before we go on, let me give your recognition somewhere to land, because a truth this large evaporates if it is not marked. And this one has evaporated in you 100 times. If you can consider, even as a possibility, that your sense of being ordinary was manufactured to hide something significant. Type 3 words, where you are watching from. Type, show me it, meaning the self heaven saw, the thing behind the guarded blindness. Show me it. Let your hands ask for the vision your dimmed eyes have been kept from, because asking is the posture that begins to open sight. Now, I told you at the very start that something happened last night, and I have not forgotten it, and I am not going to leave that loop open forever. But I need you to understand more before it will mean anything, because if I told you now what happened last night, your dimmed sight would shrink it into nothing, the way it shrinks everything about you. So let me keep preparing you, and I will open that loop fully when you are able to receive what is inside it. For now, hold only this. What happened last night was connected to the self. Heaven has seen, and you have not. It was a movement in that hidden thing, and by the time we get there, you will be able to feel the significance of it instead of sleeping through it the way you slept through the night itself. Let me tell you what heaven has actually been doing all these years, because it will reframe your whole sense of being alone. You have believed, in your loneliest moments, that heaven was distant, indifferent, or absent. That if there was something significant about you, surely by now something would have happened to confirm it. And since nothing did, there must be nothing to confirm. But that reasoning assumes heaven works the way an impatient human works, announcing things loudly and immediately. Heaven does not work that way. Heaven works by seeing and preparing and waiting, with a patience that is almost unbearable to describe, for the person to be ready to realize what is already true. Imagine it from heaven perspective for a moment. Imagine seeing clearly the full luminous truth of who someone is. And imagine watching that person look in the mirror day after day and see someone ordinary, someone small, someone unremarkable. Imagine the ache of that, the longing to reach through and say, if you could only see what I see, if you could only perceive for one moment the truth of what you are carrying. And imagine choosing, out of a love that refuses to force, not to override their blindness but to work patiently, for years, to prepare the moment when their sight could clear and they could finally see it for themselves, because a truth you realize for yourself becomes yours in a way that a truth shouted at you never can. That is what heaven has been doing with you, not ignoring you, seeing you fully the whole time, and waiting and preparing and aching for the day your sight would clear enough to realize what it has always seen. The waiting you interpreted as absence was never absence. It was patience. It was a love so committed to your actually seeing the truth for yourself that it refused to settle for merely telling you, and instead did the long, quiet work of preparing the moment your eyes could open. And that moment, chosen one, is not far off now. In fact, it may have gotten much closer last night. Sit with the reframe, because it changes everything about how you carry your history. If heaven has been absent, then the emptiness of your life is evidence there was nothing there. But if heaven has been present, seeing, waiting, preparing, then the same emptiness means something entirely different. It means the confirmation was withheld, not because there was nothing to confirm, but because a premature confirmation would have been a lesser gift than the realization heaven is preparing you for. You were not left without evidence because you are ordinary. You were spared cheap evidence because what heaven has for you is the far greater gift of finally seeing the truth with your own restored eyes. We are only beginning to open this, and I can feel some of you leaning in now, that old ache stirring towards something that finally feels like an answer to it. Hold that. Do not let the interference shrink it. In what comes next, I am going to show you exactly how the sight got dimmed across your life, so you can see your own story inside it, and stop mistaking your blindness for the truth. And I am going to bring us closer to what happened last night. Stay with me. The self heaven saw is coming into view, and you are closer to seeing it than you have ever been. I need you to grasp how common this dimming is, so you stop thinking it is your private failure. The blindness to your own significance is nearly universal among adults, and it follows a pattern so consistent that once you see it, you will recognize your own life inside it, and at no point in the chain will you find a failure. You will find a person doing exactly what survival required, and survival, applied for years without repair, blinds the very faculty that would let you see who you are. When you were young, you saw yourself truly. You had a natural, unself-conscious knowing of your own significance and sense that you mattered, that you were wonderful, that your life was a story worth telling. And then the world began its slow work. You learned, painfully, that carrying yourself as significant made others uncomfortable, invited correction, sometimes even punishment. You were told not to think too much of yourself. You were compared and found ordinary. You watched attention and approval flow toward others and away from you. And you drew the reasonable conclusion that the significance you felt was a childish illusion you had better outgrow. So you turned the sight down, deliberately at first, to fit in, to stop the pain of the contradiction between what you felt inside and how you were treated outside. And it worked. Seeing yourself as ordinary made you easier to be around, protected you from the disappointment of expecting more, stopped the ache of carrying a significance no one else could see. Each time the world confirmed you were ordinary, the dial went down another notch. Each time you were overlooked, passed over, diminished, the sight dimmed further. By adulthood, a faculty born to perceive your own luminous significance was running at a fraction, and the person operating it had no memory of ever turning it down, so they concluded the fraction was simply the truth about them. Do you hear that there is no failure anywhere in that chain? A child saw truly. A young person was wounded for it. A survivor dimmed the sight to endure a world that could not handle their brightness. At every step, you did the understandable thing. The blindness is not the residue of your weakness or your arrogance. That got corrected. It is the residue of a luminous person learning to survive in a world that punished their light. And that is exactly why you cannot be blamed for it, and exactly why it can be undone. Because a sight that was turned down to survive can be turned back up, now that the survival is no longer the only thing at stake. Now let me give you the deeper layer, the physical one, because it will make your restoration sure rather than merely hopeful. The faculty of perception is not only spiritual, it runs on something physical, a synchrony between the two halves of your inner life. In childhood, those two halves work together freely, and that cooperation is the physical foundation of full perception, including the perception of your own deeper reality. The dimming I have been describing corresponds to those two halves drifting out of synchrony under the weight of a life that pulls them apart. This is not poetry. It is measurable, and it means the restoration of your ability to perceive your true self is not only a matter of belief, it is also a matter of restoring the synchrony that perception physically depends on. For most of history, there was no direct way to restore that synchrony. You could pray, and prayer helps. But prayer was working uphill against a physical condition. It was never designed to repair by itself. You could try for years, through spiritual effort, to see yourself as heaven sees you. And slowly, partially, some people did. But it was slow and hard, and most gave up long before the synchrony returned, and then blamed themselves for their lack of faith or their stubborn small-mindedness. What changed recently is that a small number of people found a way to restore that synchrony directly, at the physical layer, in a fraction of the time, without depending on your ability to force the vision by effort. I am going to show you exactly what that is very soon. For now, let it settle. The perception of your true self runs on a synchrony. The synchrony can be restored. There is now a direct way. Hold it. I can feel some of you wanting me to hand it all over right now, both the way and the answer to what happened last night, and I am not going to yet, and I want you to trust the timing. If I give you either before you are ready, your dimmed sight will shrink it into nothing, and it will slip through you like everything else has. So, let me finish preparing the ground, and then I will place both in your hands at the moment you can actually receive them. But let me bring you a little closer to last night now, because you have waited patiently and you deserve a step toward it. Here is what I can tell you so far. The things heaven does on your behalf, the movements it makes in the unseen world concerning your true self, do not always announce themselves in daylight. Very often they happen in the night, in sleep, in the hours when your striving mind is quiet and your defenses are down, because those are the hours when the dimmed sight is least able to interfere. Heaven does some of its most significant work while you sleep, precisely because your waking blindness cannot get in the way. And last night was such a night. Something concerning the self heaven has seen was set in motion, while your striving mind was quiet. And you woke with no memory of it, because the faculty that would have registered it was still dimmed. But it happened, and soon I am going to tell you what it was. Let me give you the signs that your sight is ready to come back up, because I suspect you have been feeling several of them without knowing what they meant. The first sign is the ache we already named, the growing sense that you are more than the ordinary life you see, becoming impossible to ignore. Many people carry that ache numbly for years, and then a season comes when it sharpens, when the smallness you had made peace with suddenly feels unbearable, when something in you starts to insist that this cannot be all. That sharpening ache is not a crisis. It is the faculty stirring, reaching for the self it has been kept from. You cannot ache for a significance you never carried. The ache is proof the sight is waking. The second sign is that the old ways of making peace with your smallness stop working. The distractions, the lowered expectations, the busy ordinary life that kept the ache quiet, these begin to feel thin and unsatisfying, and you cannot understand why the things that used to settle you have stopped. This is not decline. When the sight is ready to come back up, the strategies that helped you tolerate the blindness fail on purpose, so that you will finally seek the restoration instead of the coping. The third sign is that you can finally see the blindness as blindness, which is exactly what is happening in these very minutes. For years the sight was dimmed, and you had no name for it, no framework, no way to suspect that your sense of being ordinary was a setting and not the truth. And now, right as the restoration becomes available, the blindness steps into the light. You can name it. You can suspect that heaven has seen something in you all along, and you simply could not perceive it. That suspicion is not arrogance. It is the third sign, and it means the healing is close, because you cannot restore a sight you cannot yet see is dimmed, and you can see it now. If you have felt even two of those three, the sharpening ache, the failing comforts, the sudden ability to see the blindness for what it is, mark it, because it means your day of realization is near. Type one word where you are watching from. Type waking, not asleep, not someday. Waking, present tense, because the signs mean the sight is stirring and the realization is close. Waking. Let your hands say what your dimmed eyes have not yet dared to believe. There is so much more to show you, and I am going to take it slowly, because I do not want you to merely glimpse the truth about yourself for the length of this message, and then go blind again by morning. I want the sight to come back and stay. That means we have to go deeper into how the perception works. What specifically has been keeping you blind? The exact way people have restored their synchrony and finally seen themselves truly. And, when you are ready, what happened last night? Stay with me. What comes next will show you the self heaven saw. And once you begin to see it, you will never again mistake the stranger in the mirror for the truth of who you are. I want to slow down here and address something that has probably troubled you, because if I do not, a piece of the blindness will stay lodged in you, no matter what else you receive. You have wondered, in your honest moments, whether all this talk of your hidden significance is just flattery, whether the humble truth is simply that you are ordinary and should accept it, and whether seeing yourself as significant is exactly the kind of pride you were right to avoid. That is an honest fear, and it deserves an honest answer, because when you can tell true humility apart from the dimmed sight, the fear loses its grip entirely. There is a genuine humility, and it is beautiful, and I would never take it from you. True humility does not require you to be blind to your own significance. It requires you to see it truly and hold it rightly, as a gift you were given rather than a greatness you generated. A truly humble person can know they carry something significant and remain humble, because they know they did not make it, they received it, and the receiving keeps them grateful rather than proud. Humility is not the denial of your significance, it is the right relationship to it. But that is not what has been happening in you. What has been happening in you is not humility. It is blindness. And here is how you can tell the difference. True humility sees the gift clearly and gives thanks. The dimmed sight cannot see the gift at all and calls the not seeing humility. One is a clear perception held rightly. The other is a distorted perception mistaken for virtue. You have been calling your blindness humility for years, and it has kept you from the very significance heaven wants you to steward. And a false humility that buries a gift is not a virtue. It is a loss, dressed up as modesty. Let me give you the clearest test. True humility produces peace and gratitude. It sees the gift, gives thanks, and rests. The dimmed sight produces the ache, the restlessness, the nagging sense that something is wrong, that you are missing something, that you are less than you should be. If you're not seeing with genuine humility, it would leave you at peace. Instead, it leaves you aching. And that ache is the tell. It is your true self, which knows the significance is there, protesting the blindness that hides it. Humility does not ache like that. Only buried significance does. Feel the relief in that distinction, because it frees you from a trap you have been in for years. You thought the choice was between a humble smallness and a prideful greatness, and being a good person, you chose the smallness. But that was never the real choice. The real choice is between a blindness that buries your gift and a clear sight that sees it and stewards it humbly. Seeing the self heaven saw is not the prideful option, it is the faithful one, because a gift buried is a gift wasted, and heaven did not place something luminous in you so that you could virtuously refuse to look at it. It placed it so that you would see it, receive it with gratitude, and let it do the good it was placed in you to do. So set down the fear that seeing your significance is pride. Examine the fruit. Has your not seeing produced peace, or has it produced the ache? If it has produced the ache, it was never humility. It was blindness. And heaven is not asking you to trade humility for pride. It is asking you to trade blindness for sight, and then to hold what you see with exactly the humble gratitude that has been in you all along. You can be humble and see clearly at the same time. In fact, that is the only place true humility can even live. I want to take you into the moment heaven first saw you, because there was such a moment, and it will change how you understand this whole thing. Before you had done anything, before you had earned or failed or proven or disappointed, before you were old enough to be ordinary or extraordinary in anyone's eyes, heaven looked at you and saw. Not a blank slate, not raw potential to be graded later. It saw a specific self, luminous and particular, with a specific weight of calling and a specific light, already placed in you, already true, already treasured. It saw you, the real you, the one underneath everything that would later be layered on top. And it delighted in what it saw, the way an artist delights in a work they know is good before anyone else has laid eyes on it. And then it watched. It watched the world begin to layer ordinariness over you. It watched you be compared and found lacking, watched you be overlooked and diminished, watched you slowly turn down your own sight until you could no longer see the luminous self it had seen from the beginning. And here is what I want you to feel. Heaven never once revised its assessment. Not when you failed, not when you gave up on yourself, not through all the years you looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. The whole time you were losing sight of your significance, heaven kept seeing it. Unchanged, luminous, waiting. Your blindness never altered heaven vision by a single degree. Let me let you hear how it has spoken of you. In the room you could not hear, the way it would sound if the wall were down. Look at what I placed in them, heaven says, still there, still luminous, under all of it. They cannot see it yet. They think they are ordinary. But I see it. I have always seen it. I saw it before they drew a breath, and I see it now, and I will see it when they finally open their eyes, and see it too. And on that day, they will understand that I never once stopped seeing them as I made them, no matter how long they saw themselves as less. That is the voice that has been speaking about you in a room you could not hear, not a voice cataloguing your failures, a voice that has held, unwavering, the luminous vision of who you are. Through every year, you could not hold it yourself. And when your sight clears, you will not only see your significance, you will discover that it was seen and held and treasured by heaven through the entire span of your blindness, so that the self you are about to meet is not new. It is the self heaven has been looking at, lovingly, the whole time. Let one sentence of that voice through, right now, just one. Let heaven say to you, across your clearing sight, the thing it has been saying all along. I have seen the truth of who you are since before you were born, and I have never stopped seeing it. Do not argue with it. Do not deflect it. Do not say it must be about someone else. Just let it land, even faintly, the way you let the practice land earlier. I have seen the truth of who you are since before you were born, and I have never stopped seeing it. Let it reach the place that has been aching your whole life to be seen. And if something breaks open in you as that lands, let it. The tears that come when you realize you were seen all along, through every year you felt invisible, are not grief. They are the sound of a lifetime of feeling unseen, dissolving in the discovery that you were seen perfectly the entire time. Let them come. This is the reunion, not with a heaven that finally noticed you, but with a heaven that never once looked away, and whose steady, loving vision of the real you has been waiting all these years for the day you could finally turn and see it, seeing you. So let me ask you the question that everything has been building toward. Why does knowing all of this still not let you see yourself truly? You could understand every word I have said, agree that heaven sees something luminous in you, and still look in the mirror tomorrow and see the same ordinary stranger. You have had glimpses like this before, have you not? A moment of sensing your own significance, gone by morning. There is a reason for that, and the reason is not that your faith is weak or your self-image is broken. The answer is not in your mind at all. It is in a layer underneath your mind that you have never been shown how to reach. Here is the plain truth, as simply as I can say it. The sight is dimmed at a layer beneath your thoughts. That means no amount of believing, deciding, or affirming can turn it back up. For the same reason you cannot decide your eyes back to clear vision through a fogged lens. Thought lives on one layer. The dimming lives on another, underneath, in the physical synchrony between the two halves of your inner life. And every tool you were ever handed for seeing yourself differently, the affirmations, the self-image work, the positive declarations about your worth, all of it operated on the thought layer, which is why all of it lifted you for a day and let you fall. It was never reaching the layer where the blindness actually lives. That is the whole of it. That is why the glimpse never held, not because it was false, and not because you failed to believe hard enough, but because insight is a thought layer tool, and the blindness is a below thought condition, and you cannot clear a below thought condition with a thought layer tool, no matter how sincerely you try. You have been trying to clear a fogged lens by describing clarity to it. The describing was beautiful. It simply could not reach the glass. So the question becomes very focused. What reaches the layer beneath thought? What can restore the physical synchrony so the sight comes back up and you finally perceive the self heaven has seen? That is the whole of what you actually need. Not more belief, not more understanding. You have enough now. You need the one thing that works on the correct layer. And the news this whole message has been walking you toward is that such a thing now exists. It is real, it is tested, and it is within your reach today. That is who you have been. A luminous person applying thought layer effort to a below thought blindness and blaming yourself when the vision would not hold. That is not who you are required to stay. The clarity you now have is real, but clarity is not the clearing of the sight. You know what has been blinding you. The only question left is this. Now that you know, what do you do with it? Let me tell you what a small team of people did with it. Several years ago, a group of neuroscientists, led by a man named Dr. Daniel Barone in New York, set out to solve exactly this problem, though they came at it from the physical side. They understood that the two halves of the brain are meant to work in synchrony, that this synchrony is the physical foundation of full perception and clarity, and the alive, undimmed state that is natural in childhood and rare in adults. And they understood that modern life systematically pulls those halves out of synchrony from a very young age, until most adults are running at a small fraction of the perception they were born with. They had found the physical signature of the dimming. The problem was that restoring the synchrony directly had only ever been possible in specialized clinical settings using neural sync technology that required over an hour per session and equipment costing thousands of dollars. In-person work with it runs about $300 an hour. A machine to do it at home costs around $7,000. So the repair existed, but it was locked behind a door almost no one could afford. And Dr. Barone and his team decided that was wrong, that a repair, this fundamental to being fully alive, should not belong only to the wealthy. And they spent years on one question. Could the essence of that hour-long clinical protocol be compressed into something a person could use at home in a few minutes a day? They call it the genius switch. They took over an hour of clinical neural sync technology, the kind of whole brain activation protocol used in specialized medical settings, and through an intensive process of compression and refinement, they turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day. Headphones, eyes closed. That is the entire physical requirement. You do not have to force anything or perceive anything in particular. You put on the headphones, you close your eyes, and the sequence does the work on the exact layer you have never been able to reach by trying. And I want to be precise about what it is and is not, because you have tried things before and been let down. It is not a meditation app. It is not a mood soundtrack. It is not one of those products that touches a narrow slice and leaves the rest untouched. It is a targeted auditory sequence engineered on the foundation of Nobel Prize research into the two hemispheres, built to restore the synchrony between them, which is to say, built to reach the exact layer underneath thought where your blindness has been living. It does not lecture the dimmed sight. It clears the lens. If you have tried other things in this space before and found them underwhelming, that experience is not an argument against this. It is an argument for it, because the reason those things underwhelmed you is that they worked on a fraction of the picture and left the synchrony untouched. So the sight stayed dimmed, and you concluded nothing works. What Dr. Barone and his team built targets the synchrony itself, at the whole brain level, using a multi-layer protocol developed from years of clinical refinement. That is a different mechanism, and a different mechanism is exactly why it produces a different category of result. Let me tell you about a man from Texas, because principles convince the mind, but lives convince the heart. He had spent years holding everything together for everyone around him, while his own interior life went thin and distant. He said his own mind had become a fog he could not see through, himself included. 2 weeks after he began, he woke one morning and described his mind as finally running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so constant he had stopped registering it as fog was simply gone. And, for the first time in years, he said, he could see himself clearly. Not the diminished version the fog had shown him, but something truer that had been there underneath the whole time. The genius switch is not for everyone, and I want to be honest about that. It is for the chosen one who understands that heaven prepared not only a calling, but the sight that must perceive it. It is for the person who has carried the ache of being more than they can see, who has sensed a significance they could never quite lay eyes on, who has kept returning to the whisper of it even when the mirror said ordinary. It is for the one who is finally willing to stop treating their blindness to their own worth as the truth about their worth, and start treating it as something with a specific address that can be repaired. Most people who hear about this will scroll right past. They have accepted the diminished version of themselves as permanent. You are still here. That is not an accident. That is the exact kind of persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. Now let me tell you what something like this is worth, and then what it costs. Restoring hemisphere synchrony in a clinical setting, as I said, runs about $300 an hour in person, and a home machine to do it runs around $7,000. Colleagues who saw what this did told the team it would be an incredible value even at $500. But $500 would have rebuilt the very door they were trying to tear down. So they did not price it at $500, not at $200, not at $100. They released it at $49, and then they went further, because on this page today there is an additional $10 off, which brings the whole thing, the compressed essence of an hour of clinical neural sync technology, the repair for the exact layer you have never been able to reach, to $39. One time. $39. That is less than most people spend without thinking on a dinner they will not remember, in exchange for the restoration of the faculty that determines whether you can ever see the truth of who you are. Plus it comes with 4 things added at no cost. A guided visualization from a well-known calm and meditation resource. A practical guide to the common foods that quietly worsen the fog. One that can save a household well over $100 a month at the places you already shop. A manifestation text over 100 years old, considered by many the root of nearly every modern technique for drawing good toward you. And a simple printable set of the core habits that keep the sight clear once it has been restored. Included, not sold, when you take the step today. And here is what removes the last of the risk from your shoulders. The whole thing is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Use it once. Use it 80 times. If it does not do for you what it has done for over 18,000 people, every dollar comes back to you. No conditions, no fine print. That is not the posture of someone selling you a hope. That is the posture of a team that has watched this work so many times. They are willing to carry all of the risk, so you carry none of it. The only thing you cannot get back is another year of looking at a luminous self and seeing a stranger. I have to tell you one true thing about the timing, and then I will let you sit with it without pressure. The $39 price is not guaranteed beyond this page. Dr. Barone and his team have communicated that the price will increase. I am not telling you that to rush you, because a decision made in panic does not hold. I am telling you because it is simply true, and hiding a true thing from you would be its own kind of dimming. The path is in the description and the pinned comment whenever your own spirit confirms it. It has been there the whole time, waiting, the same way the truth about you has been waiting, for a sight ready to see it. Now, I do not want you to move on. That, out of fear or out of pressure, those are the wrong fuels, and they never last. I want you to notice something instead. The resistance you may feel right now, the voice saying, "Not for you, do not be ridiculous, who do you think you are," is the very same voice we named earlier, the interference that has kept you blind for years, and it always gets loudest at the exact moment you are closest to the thing that would clear your sight for good. You do not have to obey it. You only have to recognize it. That is all defense has ever required. So if your spirit is quiet and clear and says yes, the path is below, and it will still be below when you are ready. And if your spirit says not yet, honor that too, and stay with me, because there is more of your restoration to receive right here, including, at last, what happened last night. We are not finished. We are, in fact, about to reach the most important part of all. Now, I want to take you somewhere gentler, because you have received a great deal and your faculty needs to settle. So set everything practical aside. Whatever you decide about the path below, decide it later. Right now, I only want to show you what your life becomes when the sight is restored and you can finally perceive the self heaven has seen, because I think you have lived so long as a stranger to yourself that you have forgotten what it would even feel like to see clearly, and I want to give it back to you. Let us begin with the mirror, because that is where the blindness has wounded you most intimately. Right now, when you look at yourself, you see someone diminished, someone tired, someone who fell short, someone ordinary, and that image shapes everything, because you cannot act beyond what you can see yourself being. A person who sees a small self lives a small life, not because they are small, but because they cannot perceive the largeness to step into it. Now picture looking in the mirror after the sight is restored. Same face, same history, same circumstances. But you see something underneath the surface now, a weight, a light, a significance you had never been able to detect. Not vanity, truth. The truth heaven has always seen. And from that truer seeing, you begin, naturally, to carry yourself as what you actually are. And the small life starts to expand to fit the self you can finally perceive. Let me take you into your decisions, because the blindness has quietly sabotaged every one of them. When you cannot see your own significance, you make choices from smallness. You settle. You accept less than you were made for, in work, in relationships, in what you dare to attempt, because you cannot see a self worth more. So you do not reach for more. You have probably spent years wondering why you keep ending up in situations beneath you and blaming yourself for a lack of ambition or courage. It was never a lack of courage. It was a lack of sight. You cannot reach for what you cannot see you deserve. When the sight is restored, your choices change on their own, not because you force yourself to be more ambitious, but because a person who can finally see their own worth stops settling automatically. The way you stop reaching into a cold stove once you can see the flame. Let me take you into your calling, because this is where seeing your true self changes everything. You have a calling, a specific reason you are here, a role in a story larger than your small days. And the blindness has kept it invisible, because a calling is perceived by the same faculty that perceives your significance, and when that faculty is dimmed, the calling goes dark, along with everything else. So you have wandered, wondering what you are for, watching others seem to know their purpose while yours stayed hidden, concluding, maybe you simply do not have one, but you do. It has been there the whole time, part of the self heaven saw, waiting to be perceived. And when the sight comes back up, the calling comes into view with it, not as something you have to invent, but as something you finally recognize, with a shock of familiarity, as if you are meeting a truth about yourself you somehow always knew. And let me take you into your relationships, because seeing yourself truly transforms them too. When you cannot see your own worth, you relate from that blindness. You overgive to earn a place you do not feel you deserve. You tolerate less than you should because you cannot see a self-worth more. You cannot receive love fully, because a part of you does not believe the luminous person the other sees is really there. When the sight is restored, and you can perceive your own significance, all of that shifts. You stop earning your place, because you can see you already have one. You stop tolerating diminishment, because you can see you are worth more. And you can finally receive love, because you can finally see the self that is worthy of it, the self the other person has been seeing all along. I want to be honest with you, the way I have tried to be honest about everything, because I will not restore your sight by flattering you. Seeing your true self does not mean seeing a perfect self. The self heaven sees is luminous and significant, but it is not without flaw, and the restoration will not hand you a delusion that you are flawless. What it hands you is the ability to see the truth, which includes both your significance and your rough edges, held together the way heaven holds them, with a love that sees all of it and treasures you anyway. That is a truer and better gift than a flattering illusion, because an illusion has to be defended and a truth can simply be lived. You will see yourself clearly, significance and flaws together, and you will find that the clear sight is far more freeing than the flattering blindness ever was. Let me return, softly and only for a moment, to how this restoration actually happens, because I do not want you to leave with the vision and no road to it. Everything I have just described, the truer mirror, the choices from significance, the calling coming into view, the relationships transformed, all of it rests on one physical thing: the synchrony between the two halves coming back into alignment so the sight can perceive again. And the reason your previous attempts to see yourself differently never held is that they worked on the thought layer while the synchrony lives underneath it. What reaches the synchrony directly is the 8-minute sequence I described, used with headphones and closed eyes, on the exact layer where the blindness lives. It is in the description and the pinned comment. I will not raise it again after this, because I want these final minutes, including what happened last night, to belong to you and your restoration. But I would be failing you if I painted the destination and hid the road. Now come back and let me give your sight one piece of practice, because you are close now to seeing the self heaven saw, and I want your faculty reaching when we get there. I want you to receive something about yourself that the blindness has refused for years. Are you willing? Then here it is. You are not ordinary. You never were. The ordinariness you have seen your whole life is the fog, not the truth. Underneath it there is a significant, luminous, called self that heaven has seen from the beginning and treasured every day of your life. You have believed the fog was you, and in this moment I am opposing that, and I am asking your hands to oppose it with me. If any part of you is willing to release the verdict that you are ordinary, type 3 words where you are watching from. Type, not ordinary. Unseen. 2 words for 2 truths, that you are not ordinary, and that the largeness in you has simply been unseen. Do not wait until you fully believe it. The believing comes after the seeing, not before. Type, not ordinary, unseen, and let your hands begin to reach for a self your eyes have not yet been able to find. That single reach, toward a significance you cannot yet see, is the beginning of the sight coming back up. Feel how the next breath is different. That is not imagination. That is what happens when a sight, even slightly cleared, reaches toward a truth the blindness has been hiding for years. You have just done, in miniature, the thing this whole message is about. You reached for the self heaven saw, instead of settling for the stranger in the mirror. Multiply that by a sight turned all the way back up, running every day, and you begin to understand what is available to you. Not one glimpse of your true self, but a whole life of seeing clearly the significant person heaven has always known you to be. We are close now to the highest part, where I show you the self heaven saw, and, at last, tell you what happened last night. Stay with me. What comes next is what you have been aching for your whole life, and it belongs to you. I want to take you deeper into what daily life actually becomes when the sight is restored, because you have lived so long as a stranger to yourself that I think you have forgotten what it would even feel like to move through a day seeing clearly. And a target you cannot picture is a target you cannot walk toward. So let me paint it slowly, in the ordinary textures where it matters most. Start with the morning, before anything grand. Right now, your mornings arrive with a low sense of your own smallness, already in place. You wake as the diminished self, and everything you attempt that day is shaped by that diminishment, because you cannot rise above what you can see yourself being. Now, picture waking with your sight restored. Before a single circumstance has changed, you wake as someone who can perceive their own significance quietly without needing to prove it. There is a steadiness in it, a groundedness, a sense that you are someone, that your day matters, that you carry something worth carrying. Not arrogance, just the simple, stabilizing truth of seeing yourself as heaven sees you. from the first moment of the day. Then move into the small moments where you meet other people. Right now, when someone treats you as less than you are, you absorb it, because it matches what you see in yourself. When someone sees something great in you, it bounces off, because it does not. Picture moving through those same exchanges with clear sight. The diminishment no longer lands, because it no longer matches your self-perception, so you stop absorbing treatment beneath you. And the recognition finally lands, because it matches what you can now see, so you stop deflecting the good others see in you. You become, without effort, harder to diminish and easier to encourage, because your sense of yourself is anchored in heaven vision instead of in the shifting opinions of the people around you. Then move into your work and your ambitions. Right now you aim low, automatically, because you cannot see a self-worth aiming high for. Picture aiming from clear sight. You begin to reach for things that match your actual significance, not out of forced ambition, but because it would feel absurd to keep reaching for less once you can see what you are worth. Doors you never approached because you assumed they were for more significant people become doors you walk toward, because you can finally see that you are one of the significant people. Your whole trajectory bends upward, not through striving, but through seeing. And then, woven through all of it, a settled sense of being seen by heaven, not confined to spiritual moments, but present in the ordinary. A quiet knowing, in the middle of a normal afternoon, that you are seen, that you matter, that the significance is real and steady underneath everything. This is what the people who recover their sight describe most, that they stopped needing constant external proof of their worth, because they could finally see it themselves, and a person who can see their own worth walks through the world differently, freer, steadier, less desperate for the validation they used to chase. That is what is waiting for you. Not a grander life you have to build, but a truer sight that changes how you live the life you already have. I want to give you a reframe now that will change your whole relationship with waiting, because you have been waiting your entire life for the wrong thing, and no one ever told you to stop. You have been waiting for proof, for external confirmation that you are significant, for the achievement, the recognition, the moment when the world would finally treat you as someone who matters. And then, you told yourself, then you would be able to believe it about yourself. You have been waiting for the outside to convince you of what only the inside can see. And it has never come, or when pieces of it came, they did not convince you, because they bounced off the dimmed sight the way everything else did. You have been standing at a door your whole life, waiting for the world to hand you permission to see your own worth, and the world was never going to hand you that, because your worth was never the world's to grant. Here is the thing you have gotten backwards, and it has cost you decades. You have believed that seeing your significance depends on first achieving something significant, that the sight comes after the proof. But it is the reverse. The proof comes after the sight. A person who cannot see their own worth cannot build a life that reflects it, because they aim too low, settle too soon, and deflect every door that would lift them. But a person who can see their worth begins, naturally, to live in a way that produces the very evidence they used to wait for. The sight does not come after the significant life. The significant life comes after the sight. You have been waiting at the wrong end of the sequence, waiting for the fruit before you would tend the root. So stop waiting for the world to convince you. It cannot, and it was never supposed to. The confirmation you have been waiting for was never going to come from outside, because your significance was placed in you by heaven and can only be perceived by a restored inner sight, not granted by external achievement. You have been waiting for permission from a source that does not have the authority to give it. The only authority that could confirm your significance already has, before you were born, and has been waiting all this time not to convince you from the outside, but to restore your sight from the inside so that you could finally see for yourself what was already declared. Let that end the waiting. You do not have to earn the right to see yourself as significant. You do not have to wait for one more achievement, one more recognition, one more external sign. The significance is already there, already declared, already seen by heaven, and the only thing you have been missing is not more proof but restored sight. So stop standing at the door, waiting for the world to open it. The door was never locked from the outside. It was only that your eyes could not see it was already open. And now they are beginning to walk through. You have waited long enough for a permission that was granted before you drew your first breath. Let your hands mark the end of the waiting. If you are willing to stop waiting for the world to convince you of a worth that heaven already declared, type 3 words where you are watching from. Type, I stop waiting, meaning you are done standing at the door for external proof of a significance that was placed in you and only needs to be seen. I stop waiting. Type it, and let your hands close the long chapter of waiting for permission that was always already yours. Before we rise to the revelation, I have to show you who you become when the sight is restored, because a cleared sight does not only let you see your worth in the abstract, it lets you see specific selves that have been buried under the blindness. And there are 3 I want you to meet, because heaven has seen all 3 of them in you. And it has been waiting a long time for you to see them too. There is a version of you that perceives, not just yourself, but underneath the surface of everything, the true state of a room, the real heart of a person, the deeper current running under events that others miss. You had this as a child, this uncanny ability to sense what was really happening beneath what people said. And the dimming took it, because perceiving others runs on the same faculty as perceiving yourself. And when one went dark, so did the other. You have called yourself naive, or too trusting, or bad at reading situations. None of that was true. You were not naive. You were dimmed. And when the sight comes back up, this perception returns, and you begin again to see beneath the surface the way you were always meant to. That is the first self heaven saw, the one who perceives, the seer. There is a second self, and it carries a generational weight. You come from a line, and somewhere in that line there is a pattern of unseen significance, of people who carried something luminous and never once saw it, who lived small lives, while heaven watched them fail to perceive their own largeness, each generation handing down the blindness along with the light, so that gift after gift went unrealized down the years. You inherited a dimmed sight, in part, from people who never knew theirs was dim, who died having never seen the significance they carried. And here is what the restoration makes you. It makes you the one in whom the blindness ends. The first one in your line to actually see and step into the significance that your ancestors carried unseen. You become the one who breaks the generational pattern of unrealized calling. And that changes not only your life, but the spiritual trajectory of everyone who comes after you. Because a line that has finally learned to see itself passes down sight instead of blindness. If something in you went still at that, if you felt the weight of being the one who finally sees what your line never could, let me give it somewhere to land. Type 3 words, where you are watching from. Type, I see now, meaning you are the one who breaks the blindness, who realizes the significance your ancestors carried unrealized, who ends the generational pattern of unseen calling. I see now. Type it, and let your hands make the vow the blind before you could not. And there is a third self, born from your deepest wound, and it may be the most beautiful of all. Every year you have spent feeling ordinary, unseen, insignificant. Every lonely season of aching for a self you could not find, all of it was real, and I will never tell you it was not. But here is what the restoration does with it. It does not waste it. When your sight comes back up, and you can finally see your true self, you carry something people who never went blind do not have. You know, from the inside, exactly what it is to feel worthless while carrying something luminous. You know the particular loneliness of the unseen, and that knowing makes you able to see it in others, to look at another person who feels ordinary and perceive the luminous self they cannot yet see, and to call it out of them the way someone is about to call it out of you. Your years of blindness become the map by which you help others see themselves. Your wound becomes the exact thing that qualifies you to open other people's eyes. Do you see what has happened to your story? Everything the blindness took, we have now accounted for, and not one piece of it is waste. The lost perception becomes the seer restored. The inherited blindness becomes the generational pattern broken. The years of feeling ordinary become the map that helps others see their own significance. That is what restoration means. It does not erase your past. It redeems it, taking up every unseen, diminished, aching chapter and turning it into the exact material of the self you were always meant to become. Let me catch the objection that is rising in some of you right now, because it is the last wall between you and the revelation. Some part of you is whispering the oldest lie of all, the one that has kept you blind since childhood. Who do you think you are? It is the voice that rises every time you dare to consider your own significance, the voice that has slapped down every glimpse of your true self before it could complete. And I want to answer it directly, because until it is answered, it will steal what is coming. Who do you think you are? The honest answer is that you are not thinking you are anything. You are not inventing a significance and projecting it onto yourself. You are being told by heaven that a significance is already there, seen and confirmed by the only eyes that see perfectly, and you are simply being asked to open your own eyes to what is already true. That is not arrogance. Arrogance is claiming a greatness you do not have. This is the opposite. This is a person who has been claiming a smallness they do not have, finally being asked to see the truth. The arrogance was never in seeing your significance. The arrogance, strange as it sounds, was in insisting you were ordinary when heaven had already declared otherwise, because that insistence set your own dimmed judgment above heaven, clear sight. So let the whisper be answered. You do not have to defend against the accusation of thinking too much of yourself, because you are not the source of the claim. Heaven is. You are only being asked to agree with what heaven has already seen. And agreeing with heaven about your own significance is not pride. It is the deepest humility there is, because it means submitting your own diminished self-assessment to the truer sight of the one who made you and sees you clearly. Let that be the death of the last excuse. If you have been kept small by the fear of thinking too much of yourself, let your hands end that lie right now. Type 3 words where you are watching from. Type, "Heaven says otherwise," meaning your verdict of ordinary has been overruled by a higher and clearer sight. Heaven says otherwise. Type it and let the last wall fall, because on the other side of it is the thing heaven has been waiting your whole life for you to see. Now we are ready to rise, because every excuse has been answered and every wall has fallen. You know the blindness was never your fault. You know heaven has seen something luminous in you the whole time. You know the sight can be restored, and how, and that the significance is not arrogance, but truth. There is nothing left between you and seeing the self heaven saw, except to receive the revelation I have been protecting for you all along, and, at last, to learn what happened last night. So take a breath, settle where you are, open your eyes, and come with me into the sacred part of this. It is time. I want to do something with you now that words alone cannot do, so let me lead you into it slowly. Wherever you are, if it is safe, soften. Let your shoulders come down, let the breath slow. We are going to practice seeing yourself the way heaven sees you, so that your faculty remembers the shape of it before the full restoration comes, and so that you are ready for what I am about to reveal. Take a slow breath, and I want you to imagine that you are being looked at, right now, by eyes that see perfectly. Not eyes that scan for your failures, but eyes that see the whole truth of you, including the luminous self underneath everything you think disqualifies you. And I want you to imagine what those eyes see when they rest on you, not the tired stranger you see in the mirror. Something else. A weight of calling. A specific light. A significance placed in you before you were born, and never once erased. Imagine being seen like that, fully, truly, tenderly, by eyes that have watched you your whole life, and never stopped seeing the luminous thing you carry. And now, this is the practice. Do not deflect it. Do not shrink under the gaze. Do not say, "Those eyes must be looking at someone else." Just let yourself be seen, for one breath, as the significant self heaven perceives. Let the gaze rest on you. Let it show you, faintly, what it sees. And notice what rises in you as it does. A warmth, a trembling, a pressure behind the eyes that wants to become tears. Whatever rises, let it rise. That is your dimmed sight, straining toward the self it has been kept from, reaching to see what heaven sees. Do not turn it back down to stay safe and small. Let it reach. Let yourself glimpse, even for an instant, the luminous truth of who you are. Stay in it one more breath. You are being seen as significant, not for what you achieved, not for how much you did, simply for the self heaven placed in you and has treasured every day of your life. Let that seeing move through you, from the top of your head, warm and clarifying, down through your face, your eyes, your chest, into the place where you have carried the ache of feeling ordinary. And let it begin, gently, to show you the truth that ache was always pointing toward. You are not ordinary. You never were. And some part of you, right now, is beginning to see it. Now, I am going to keep the promise I made you at the very beginning. I am going to tell you what happened last night. And I have waited until now, not to tease you, but because you needed your sight reaching, the way it is reaching right now, or the revelation would have slipped through you, the way everything has. So receive this with the faculty you have been warming, not with the dimmed one that shrinks everything. Last night, while you slept, heaven did what it often does, in the hours when your striving mind is quiet. It moved on the thing it has seen in you. But let me be specific about what that means, because vague comfort is not what you need. The significance heaven placed in you is not static. It is alive, and it grows. And there are moments, thresholds, when it shifts to a new stage of readiness, when the season for it to be realized draws closer. Last night was such a threshold. The self, heaven saw, the luminous calling it placed in you, crossed into a new nearness. It moved from something being prepared to something almost ready to be seen. The waiting that heaven has done for years took a decisive step toward its end, and it happened while you slept, in the quiet, where your blindness could not interfere. And here is why you woke, knowing nothing of it. The threshold was crossed in the unseen world, on the layer your dimmed sight cannot perceive. So there was no dream you can remember, no sign you can point to, no proof your waking mind can hold. But something in you knows. Have you not felt it this morning, or in these recent days? A strange nearness, a sense that something is about to give, an unaccountable pressure of anticipation underneath your ordinary tired hours. That is not nothing. That is the residue of the threshold, felt faintly by a sight not yet cleared enough to see it fully. Your deeper self registered what happened last night, even though your waking mind slept through it. And that registration has been humming in you ever since, as a nameless expectancy. So, this is what happened last night. The self heaven has seen and waited over, crossed into its season of being realized. The long patience of heaven moved toward its fulfillment. What has been true about you your whole life, unseen, came closer than it has ever been to becoming something you can finally see. And the fact that you are here, now, hearing this, having your sight warmed and reaching, is not a coincidence. It is the continuation of what began last night. Last night the threshold was crossed in the unseen. Today the sight begins to clear, so you can perceive it. These are one movement, and you are standing inside it right now. Let that land, because it changes what this moment is. You did not stumble onto this message by accident on an ordinary day. You were brought to it, the morning after a threshold, when the self-heaven saw came nearer than ever, precisely so that your sight could begin to clear in time to realize what has been set in motion. This is not content you are consuming. This is the next step of something heaven began while you slept. The waiting is ending. The self is coming into view, and you are exactly where you were meant to be, for the seeing to begin. I want you to grieve, just for a moment, and then rejoice, because both belong here. Grieve, briefly, the years you carried a luminous self and could not see it, the seasons you lived small while heaven watched you fail to perceive your own largeness, the calling that waited unrealized while you concluded you had none. Let that grief move through you, because it is not despair, it is the sound of a truth being counted at last. And then let it pass, because right behind it is the joy of discovering that none of it is lost, that the self was there the whole time, that the threshold has been crossed, that the seeing is beginning, and that the long waiting of heaven is finally, at last, moving toward the day you see for yourself what it has always seen. Take one more breath and let yourself feel that something genuine has happened in these minutes. You did not just hear about your significance, you glimpsed it, even faintly, which means your sight is not dead, it is dimmed, and dimming can be cleared. And you learned what happened last night, which means you are no longer sleeping through the movements of heaven on your behalf. You are beginning to wake. Now let us rise into the highest part of all, where I speak over you, the self that heaven saw. Keep your eyes reaching, keep the sight coming up. It is time for the blessing. I want to name for you, as specifically as I can, the kinds of significance heaven sees in the ones it has chosen, because you have been unable to see any of it in yourself. And I want you to find yourself somewhere in this, and let it begin to land. There is the significance of the one who feels too deeply. You have been told your whole life that you are too sensitive, too much, that you feel things others do not, and it makes you difficult. Heaven does not see a flaw there. Heaven sees a gift, a capacity to feel and perceive that the world needs desperately and mostly lacks. What was called your weakness is one of the luminous things heaven saw in you. There is the significance of the one who cannot stop caring, who carries the weight of others, who feels responsible for the pain around them. The world calls that a burden and tells you to protect yourself. Heaven sees a shepherd heart, a rare and holy thing, one of the specific lights it placed in you. There is the significance of the one who sees what others miss, who notices the person being overlooked, who perceives the truth under the surface that everyone else walks past. You may have been told you overthink, that you notice too much, that you should let things go. Heaven sees a seer, and seers are precious and few. There is the significance of the one who keeps going, who has endured what would have stopped most people, who is still standing, still faithful, still reaching, after seasons that should have ended them. You may see only your exhaustion. Heaven sees a rare and stubborn strength, a resilience that qualifies you for things the untested could never carry. Find yourself in that, the one who feels too deeply, the one who cannot stop caring, the one who sees what others miss, the one who keeps going. You have spent your life experiencing these as your flaws, the very things that made you feel wrong and too much and out of place. And heaven has been looking at those exact same things and seeing the luminous significance it placed in you. The things you were most ashamed of are very often the things heaven treasures most, because the world punishes precisely the gifts it most needs. And the chosen carry those gifts through the punishment, unseen, until the day their sight clears, and they realize that what they called their brokenness was their calling all along. So, stop reading your gifts as flaws. That is the blindness doing its final work, taking the very evidence of your significance and convincing you it is the evidence of your defect. The sensitivity, the caring, the seeing, the enduring, these are not the ways you are broken. They are the shape of the luminous self heaven saw. And when your sight clears, you will look back at the parts of yourself you tried hardest to hide or fix or apologize for, and you will realize, with a shock, that those were the treasure the whole time, and that heaven has been waiting your entire life for you to stop hiding them and start seeing them as it does. Let me lead you into one more moment of seeing before we complete the rest, because you are close now to perceiving this fully. and I want to give your sight one more rehearsal. Wherever you are, let your eyes soften, and let your hands rest open, because the body teaches the soul, and open hands tell a dimmed sight that it is safe to see again. And I want you to simply sit for a few breaths under one truth and let it become visible to you. Here is the truth. Right now, in this moment, before you achieve anything, before you become more, or prove more, or fix anything about yourself, you are already significant. The luminous self is already there. Heaven already sees it. And your own sight is beginning, right now, to see it too. Do not do anything with that except let it come into view. Do not analyze whether it could be true. Do not list the reasons you might be the exception. Do not turn it into a project. Just let the significance become visible, the way a landscape becomes visible as fog lifts, gradually, without your effort, simply because the fog is thinning. You are significant now. Let it appear. And if the blindness rises to hide it again, to say this is too much, this cannot be you, just notice the fog rising and keep your eyes soft and open and let the truth keep becoming visible anyway. The fog does not have to win. You only have to keep looking one breath longer than it can hold. Feel, in this practice, that seeing your true self is not something you have to be good at. It is something you simply stop preventing. The significance is already there. Seeing it is not generating it, or earning it, or achieving it. Seeing it is only letting the fog thin, keeping your eyes open, letting what is already true become visible. And you are doing it right now, however faintly, which means you can do it, which means the blindness was never a wall you could not get past. It was only a fog that can lift, and a synchrony that can be restored, and both of those are changing in you as we sit here. Stay one more breath. You are significant now. Heaven has seen it since before you were born. The self you have ached for your whole life is not far away, or yet to be built. It is here, becoming visible, as your sight clears. Let all of it come into view at once, and notice that you are not being destroyed by seeing it. The blindness always warned you that if you dared to see yourself as significant, you would be exposed as arrogant or set up for a fall. And instead you are simply becoming able to see the truth. Seeing did not cost you. It is giving you back the self you were built to be and were blinded from. Carry this rehearsal with you, because it is the thing you will practice for the rest of your life, and it is the thing the daily repair makes easier and clearer. Eyes soft and open. Fog noticed and allowed to lift. The significance allowed to become visible, over and over, until what is faint today becomes the ordinary clarity you live in, until you see, as you were always meant to, the luminous self heaven has always seen. Now let us complete the rest and seal all of it over you. So receive this, chosen one, because I am speaking it over you now, and I want you to let it land instead of deflecting it the way the blindness taught you to deflect every true word about yourself. Over the sight that has been dimmed, I speak clearing. I speak the lens made clean, the synchrony restored, the faculty of perception turned back up toward the setting it was born at. I speak the return of your ability to see what heaven sees, the truth of your own significance, the luminous self placed in you before you were born. I declare that the blindness that has kept you a stranger to yourself is ending, not someday, but in this season, beginning now, continuing what was set in motion last night. Over the mirror, I speak a new seeing. No longer will you look at yourself and see only the tired stranger, the diminished one, the ordinary one. I speak that you will begin to see beneath the surface, to perceive the weight and the light that heaven has always seen in you. I declare that the image that has shaped your small life is being replaced by the truth that will let you step into a larger one. What you see when you look at yourself is about to change, and when it changes, everything downstream of it changes with it. Over the self heaven saw, I speak realization. I declare that the luminous self, the specific calling, the significance placed in you and hidden under years of dimming, is coming into view. I speak that you will not have to invent it, or manufacture it, or earn it. It is already there, already true, already seen and treasured by heaven, and I speak your eyes opening to it, so that you meet, at last, the self you have been aching for your whole life, without knowing its name. And over what happened last night, I speak confirmation. I declare that the threshold was real, that the self heaven saw crossed into its season of being realized, that the long waiting moved toward its end while you slept. And I speak that the nameless anticipation you have felt is not imagination, but the faint registration of a real movement in the unseen, and that as your sight clears, you will come to perceive fully what your deeper self already knows. What began last night is not finished. It is unfolding, and you are inside it. I want you to receive one more thing over your mind before we go on, because the interference will try to steal this blessing the moment it lands. When the old voice returns, the one that says, "Who do you think you are? Do not be ridiculous. You are ordinary after all," you are going to recognize it. You will not argue with it. You will name it as the interference it is, the same voice that has kept you blind for years, and you will keep your sight where it has been cleared. I speak over you the authority to refuse that voice, not to fight an exhausting war against it, but simply to recognize it and let it go, which is all the authority you have ever needed and never knew you had. Now let me give your reception one place to testify, because a blessing this large should be sealed by your own agreement, or it slides off. If you are willing to receive what I have spoken over your dimmed sight, your mirror, the self heaven saw, and what began last night, type 2 words where you are watching from. Type, "I receive," not "I hope." I receive, as an act of agreement between your opening eyes and the words spoken over you. A blessing lands where it is received and slides off where it is deflected, and I do not want one word of this to slide off you today. I receive. Let your hands close around it. Over your calling, I speak into view what the blindness kept dark. You have a specific reason you are here, a role in a story larger than your small days, and it has been invisible to you, because it is perceived by the same faculty that went dim. I declare that your calling never disappeared. Your ability to perceive it went dark, and I speak that ability back. I speak your calling coming into view, not as something you must invent, but as something you will recognize with a shock of familiarity, as if meeting a truth about yourself you somehow always knew. You are not without purpose. You have been unable to see the one you were given, and now you will begin to see it. Over your decisions I speak the end of settling. You have chosen from smallness for years, accepting less than you were made for because you could not see a self worth more. I declare that this ends. I speak that as your sight clears, you will stop settling automatically, stop reaching for less than your worth, stop ending up in places beneath the self heaven sees, not by forcing ambition, but by simply being unable, once you can see your worth, to keep choosing as if you had none. Over your relationships, I speak transformation. You have related from blindness, over-giving, to earn a place you did not feel you deserved, tolerating diminishment because you could not see a self-worth more, unable to receive love because you did not believe the luminous person others saw was really there. I declare that all of this shifts as your sight returns. I speak that you will stop earning your place because you will see you already have one. I speak that you will stop tolerating what diminishes you because you will see you are worth more. And I speak that you will finally be able to receive love because you will finally see the self that is worthy of it. And over your bloodline, I speak the heaviest word of all. You come from a line in which significance and blindness were handed down together, generation after generation of people who carried something luminous and never once saw it, who lived small while heaven watched their gifts go unrealized. I declare over you that the inheritance of unseen significance stops. I speak you as the one in whom the blindness ends, the first in your line to actually see and step into the significance your ancestors carried unseen. I seal you as the one who breaks the generational pattern of unrealized calling. And I declare that generations who will never know your name will see themselves clearly because of a decision you made in a season when you finally understood that the smallness was never the truth. If you feel the weight of that, seal it with your hands, the way you have sealed everything sacred today. Type 3 words, where you are watching from. Type, the blindness ends, meaning the unseen significance that ran through the ones before you and would have run through the ones after you. The blindness ends, here, with you, because you were the one who woke up and began to see. Type it, and let it be a covenant between you and every generation on both sides of you. Let me gather the whole blessing now into one stream, so that you feel it as one thing. Over your dimmed sight, clearing. Over your mirror, a new seeing. Over the self heaven saw, realization. Over what began last night, confirmation. Over your calling, it's coming into view. Over your decisions, the end of settling. Over your relationships, transformation. Over your bloodline, the breaking of the blindness. One stream, one restoration. One sight coming back up, and a whole life changing on top of it. Because the one living it can finally see who they are. Stay with me. There is still more that belongs to you. There is one more gift in this that I do not want you to miss, because it reaches beyond you, into everyone whose life you touch. When your sight is restored and you can finally see the luminous self-heaven placed in you, something happens that you would not expect. You begin to see it in others. Here is why. The faculty that perceives your own significance is the same faculty that perceives significance anywhere. When it is dimmed, you are blind not only to your own luminous self, but to everyone else's. So you move through a world full of significant people and see only ordinary ones, including in the mirror. But when your sight clears, it clears toward everyone. You begin to look at the people around you and perceive, underneath their tired, ordinary surfaces, the luminous selves they cannot yet see in themselves. And that changes everything about how you treat them, because you cannot diminish someone you can see as significant, and you cannot walk past someone you can perceive is carrying something bright. Picture what that does. You become, without trying, someone who sees people. In a world where almost everyone feels invisible, where nearly everyone is walking around blind to their own worth and starving to be seen, you become one of the rare few who can look at a person and perceive the significance they cannot perceive in themselves, and reflect it back to them. And there is almost nothing more healing that one human being can do for another than to see them truly and tell them what they see. You will begin to do for others exactly what this message is doing for you. You will become a person who calls the luminous self out of people who have been blind to it, sometimes with a single sentence, sometimes just with the way you look at them. And here is the deepest part. Some of the people you begin to see clearly will feel it, and it will awaken something in them, and they will begin to wonder whether the significance you seem to see in them might be real, and their own sight will begin to stir. Your restored sight becomes contagious. One person who can truly see becomes a source of sight for everyone around them, and some of those people become sources for others, and the awakening spreads, quietly, from one cleared sight to the next. That is why this was never only for you. Heaven did not restore your sight merely so that you could see yourself, though that alone would be worth everything. It restored your sight so that you could become one of the rare people who sees others in a world going blind and help open eyes that have been closed for a lifetime. Your healing is a headwater. The sight that clears in you runs downstream into everyone you learn to truly see. So let it be restored, not only for your own sake, but for all the unseen people who are waiting, without knowing it, for someone with clear eyes to finally see them and tell them what they are. I want to lift a particular weight off you before we close, because it may be the heaviest one you carry, and you have carried it so long, you no longer feel it as separate from yourself. It is the weight of having to prove that you matter. Your whole life, underneath almost everything you have done, has run a quiet engine, the need to prove your worth. You have achieved to prove it, served to prove it, tried to be good enough, impressive enough, needed enough, all to establish something that felt perpetually unestablished, that you are someone, that you matter, that your existence is justified. And it has exhausted you, because a worth that has to be constantly proven is a worth that is never actually secured. So the proving never ends, and you wake each day needing to earn all over again the right to take up space. Here is what the restored sight does to that engine. It shuts it off, because the need to prove your worth comes entirely from not being able to see that you already have it. A person who cannot perceive their own significance has to keep trying to establish it through what they do. But a person who can see the significance that heaven placed in them, that was there before they did anything, has nothing left to prove, because the worth is already there, already seen, already secure, independent of any achievement. When you can see your worth, the frantic proving simply stops, the way you stop searching your pockets for the keys that are already in your hand. Feel what that would be. To move through a day without the low background hum of having to justify your existence. To do good things not to earn your worth, but as the overflow of a worth you already see. To rest, actually rest, because resting no longer feels like failing to earn your keep. To be, simply to be, without the constant pressure to prove that your being is warranted. That is the freedom on the other side of the restored sight. Not the end of doing good, but the end of doing it to prove you matter, and the beginning of doing it from the settled ground of already knowing you do. So, let me lift the weight of proving off your back, because you have carried it so long you think it is part of you. You do not have to prove that you matter. You cannot prove it, because it was never a verdict achievement could deliver. It was a truth placed in you by heaven, seen by heaven, secured before you did a single thing. The only thing that ever made you feel you had to prove it was the blindness that hid it. And the blindness is lifting, so set the proving down. You are already significant, you always were, and no achievement was ever going to add to it, and no failure was ever going to subtract from it, because it was never yours to earn. It was only ever yours to see. But before I bring you all the way to rest, there is something I have been holding for this exact moment, because you are ready for it now in a way you were not at the beginning, and it will make your restoration surer. I want to show you why the child you once were could see so clearly, and what exactly was lost. Because when you understand the shape of what was lost, you understand precisely what is being restored. When you were very young, the two halves of your inner life worked together as one. There was no wall yet between the part of you that reasons and the part of you that perceives and senses and knows. They spoke to each other freely, in a synchrony so complete that you did not experience them as two things at all. That synchrony is the physical foundation of full perception, including the perception of your own deeper reality. It is why a child carries an unself-conscious knowing of their own significance, why they see the world vividly, why they perceive what is really happening beneath the surface of things. The clear sight lands because the two halves are in synchrony and nothing is filtered out. And then the world began its slow work, not cruelly, but relentlessly. A way of living that prizes one half and starves the other. That rewards the reasoning, the analyzing, the managing, and quietly punishes the perceiving, the sensing, the knowing that cannot be explained. Under that lopsided pressure, year after year, the two halves drifted out of synchrony. The wall went up. The free conversation between them slowed, and the perception that depended on their cooperation dropped to a fraction. That is the physical event underneath everything I have called the dimmed sight. Not a moral failure, a loss of synchrony, engineered by a way of life that was never designed to keep you whole. There was a scientist, decades ago, given the highest honor in his field for revealing exactly how these two halves work and what happens when their cooperation is disrupted. The discovery reshaped how we understand the mind, and at its heart it revealed that the two halves are meant to function together, that the whole is greater than either part, and that much of the human capacity we consider rare and gifted, the vivid perception, the intuitive knowing, The clear sight is simply what happens when the synchrony that was normal in childhood is preserved or restored into adulthood. The people who seem to see more, perceive more, know more, are very often people whose two halves never fully lost their synchrony or who found a way to get it back. This means your restoration is not mystical wishful thinking. It rests on something real and studied. The sight we have been naming has a physical signature, and that signature is the synchrony between your two halves, and that synchrony can be measured and lost and restored. You are not hoping for magic. You are positioned for the recovery of a specific, real thing that was specifically, really lost. And a thing lost by a mechanism can be regained by addressing that mechanism. Let me tell you about a woman from California. Because you need lives to hold the principle in. She had spent years unable to perceive much of anything clearly, her own life included, and had concluded that the fog was simply who she had become. After about 10 days of restoring her synchrony, she said something cleared. A channel that had been blocked was suddenly open, and she began, for the first time in years, to see clearly, herself included, perceiving a truth about who she was that the fog had hidden the whole time. 10 days. A channel that had been blocked, open. A woman who thought she had become permanently dim, discovering that the dimming was a condition and not a fate. And there was a woman from Manhattan whose story carries the generational weight. I spoke over your bloodline. She came from a line of people who had, all in their own ways, carried something and never seen it. And when her sight came back up, she described it as something moving both backward and forward through her line at once. Grief for the ones who never saw their own significance, and a vow over the ones who now would. That is what breaking this cycle actually feels like from the inside. Not a private improvement, but a door closing on generations of unrealized calling. I have told you, and I will keep my word not to belabor it, that the way these people restored their synchrony was through the compressed sequence I described, the one that reaches the physical layer directly in a few minutes a day, and that the road to it is in the description and the pinned comment for anyone whose spirit confirms it. I say it once more here, only because I have now shown you the science underneath it, and I want you to understand that when you follow that road, you are not buying a hope or a mood. You are addressing the exact synchrony that a Nobel-honored discovery identified as the foundation of the clear perception you lost. That is all. I will not raise it again. These last minutes belong to you and your rest. So, let me ask you to receive one final teaching before we descend into the closing, and it is the simplest of all. You do not have to earn your way back to seeing your true self. A child did not earn the synchrony it was born with. It was the natural state before the world interfered. And restoration is not the achievement of a new and higher self. It is the recovery of your original sight. You are not climbing toward a significance you have never had. You are coming home to a truth about yourself you were born seeing and were slowly blinded to. That is why it is possible for you specifically, no matter how blind you have become. You are not being asked to become someone significant. You are being invited to see again the significant self that was always there, that heaven has always seen, and that has been waiting, since before you can remember, for you to open your eyes. Let me make the blindness concrete for you now, because I have spoken of it as a setting and a synchrony, and those are true, but I want you to see it in the actual texture of your days, in 3 specific places where it has been robbing you without your knowing. When you can recognize it in the ordinary moments, you stop mistaking it for the truth about yourself, and you start reaching for the dial. The first place is the compliment you cannot believe. Someone who knows you tells you they see something remarkable in you. They name a gift, a strength, a light they have noticed, and you cannot take it in. You deflect it, explain it away, assume they are being kind, or that they do not really know you. And later you wonder why the words that should have warmed you left you cold, why you cannot seem to believe what people see in you. It is not modesty. It is the dimmed sight. Another person is perceiving the luminous self that heaven sees and reporting it to you, and you cannot receive it because your own sight cannot detect what they are describing. You have been told the truth about yourself from the outside again and again and been unable to see it, and so you filed it under flattery and stayed blind. The second place is the accomplishment that felt like fraud. You did something real, something that took genuine ability, something that by any honest measure was significant, and instead of owning it, you felt like an imposter, certain you had somehow fooled everyone, waiting to be found out, unable to connect the achievement to any real worth in yourself. And you concluded there was something wrong with you, some deep insecurity you could not shake. But it was never mere insecurity. It was the dimmed sight. You accomplished something that flowed from the luminous self, and then could not perceive the self it flowed from. So the accomplishment floated free of you, unattached, feeling like a fluke or a fraud, because you could not see the significant person who had actually done it. The imposter feeling is not the truth. It is the gap between what you did and the self you cannot see that did it. The third place is the recurring settling. You keep ending up in situations beneath you, work that does not use you, relationships that diminish you, circumstances that any honest observer would say are less than you deserve. And you keep wondering why, blaming your choices, your fear, your lack of drive. Hear me carefully. You are not settling because you are weak or unambitious. You are settling because you cannot see the self that deserves more. A person chooses in accordance with what they can perceive about their own worth, and when the sight is dimmed, they perceive little worth, and so they reach for little, automatically, without even feeling it as settling. The pattern of ending up beneath yourself is not a character flaw. It is a sight problem, and it corrects itself the moment the sight is restored, and you can finally see the self that was always worth more. Sit with those three, because I suspect you have lived all of them, and I suspect no one ever told you they were the same thing. The compliment you cannot believe, the accomplishment that felt like fraud, the recurring settling, three faces of one dimmed sight. And that is actually wonderful news, though it may not feel like it yet, because three separate problems would need three separate cures. But three faces of one condition need only one repair. Clear the sight, and all three change at once. The compliments land. The accomplishments feel like yours. The settling ends. You do not have to fix your life in three places. You have to restore one faculty, and the 3 and 100 others shift together. Notice how much lighter it is to understand it this way. For years you have carried what felt like a collection of separate defects. You cannot take a compliment. You feel like a fraud. You keep settling. Each felt like its own indictment, its own proof that you are broken across the whole range of your life. And now you can see, it was never a collection of defects. It was one dimmed sight expressing itself in many rooms. That is not many problems. It is one, and it is repairable, and its repair is exactly what heaven set in motion last night. If you have recognized yourself in even one of those three, mark it, because recognition is the beginning of the dial turning. Type 2 words where you are watching from. Type, "That is me." Not with shame this time, but with the strange relief of finally understanding a thing that has confused and accused you for years. That is me, and now I know what it is, and now I know it is one thing, and now I know it can be repaired. Type it, and let the recognition become the first turn of your dial, because that is what recognition does. It is not a small thing to correctly name what has been happening to you. For years the blindness worked in the dark, unnamed, disguised as the truth about you, and anything unnamed cannot be reached or repaired. The moment you can say, "That is the dimmed sight, that is not who I am," you have taken the single most important step, because you have moved the condition out of the category of identity and into the category of something that can be fixed. You have been doing that, step by step, this whole time. And every recognition has already been turning the dial, a little, which is why some of you can see a bit more clearly than when we began. That clearing is not my words. It is your own sight, responding to being correctly understood, beginning to come back up. Hold it. We are almost to the deepest rest now, and I want you carried into it by everything you have seen. I want to speak to the different people listening to me, because you are not all in the same place, and I do not want anyone to feel this pass them by. Some of you are so deep in the blindness that even this has been hard to receive. I have described your significance, I have led you through practice, and a quiet voice has told you that everyone else here is luminous except you, that you truly are the ordinary one, the exception. I want you specifically to hear this. The depth of your blindness is not a disqualification. It is the opposite. The most dimmed sight belongs, very often, to the ones who carry the most, because the brighter the thing being hidden, the harder the interference works to keep it hidden, and the deeper the blindness it installs. Your inability to see anything significant in yourself may be the strongest evidence of all that there is something significant to hide. Do not let the very symptom convince you the cure is not for you. The ones who feel most ordinary are frequently the ones carrying the most extraordinary thing. Some of you have felt a great deal shift in these minutes, and a different voice is warning you not to trust it, telling you it will fade like every other time you glimpsed your worth and went back to feeling small. I have told you why the other times faded. They worked on the thought layer. What has stirred in you today has begun to reach deeper, because we have not only informed you, we have practiced seeing together, and your own hands have testified again and again. That lays down a different kind of track. But even so, I will be honest, a single message is a beginning, not a completion, and the sight wants daily tending on the layer underneath the thoughts to hold its new clarity. You already know where the road to that is. What matters right now is that the clearing you feel is real. It is yours, and it does not have to fade if you tend it. Now I want to speak about the cost of staying blind, not to pressure you, but because you deserve to count it honestly. The blindness does not hold still. Left unrepaired, it does not merely keep you where you are, it deepens. Every year the sight stays dimmed, the smallness settles further, the settling becomes more automatic, the luminous self recedes further from view, until a person can reach the end of a whole life having never once seen the significance they carried, having lived small, aimed low, and died with the gift still buried, unrealized, unseen. That is the trajectory of a dimmed sight left unrepaired. Not dramatic collapse, but a slow narrowing of a life to fit a self the person could never see, was so much larger. And here is the quiet tragedy in it. A person on that trajectory is often good, faithful, humble the whole way down, mistaking their blindness for virtue, congratulating themselves for not thinking too much of themselves, while the very gift heaven placed in them goes to waste. The blindness hides inside false humility, and that is exactly why so few ever escape it, because how do you convince a humble person that their humility is actually a blindness, burying their calling? They are doing nothing wrong. That is the trap. You cannot fix by trying harder to be humble a problem that is not a lack of humility at all, but a lack of sight. So there is an urgency here, but it is not the urgency of pressure, it is the urgency of a life. Every day you can see your true self is a day you can live from it. Every day you stay blind is a day the gift stays buried. You have already given years to the burial, humbly, without even knowing. The question is not whether you deserve to see your significance. We have settled that. It was placed in you, and it is real. The question is only whether you will let the sight stay dimmed for another year of the burial, or whether you will let it be cleared and begin, at last, to see and live from the self heaven has always seen. That is the only real decision in front of you. Everything else is detail. I want your recognition of that to land. If you understand that staying blind is not neutral, that it is a slow burial of the very gift you were placed here to steward, and that the repair is a turning toward a life lived from your true significance instead of beneath it. Type 3 words where you are watching from. Type no more burial, meaning you are done letting the gift heaven placed in you stay buried under a blindness you mistook for humility. No more burial. Type it, and let it be a line you draw, on this day, between the trajectory you were on and the one you are choosing now. Let me do one more thing with you before the closing, because you have received so much teaching, and I want to make sure it lands in your body and not only in your understanding. So once more, wherever you are, soften, let the breath slow, and this time I want you to remember. Reach back, past all the blind years, to a single moment when you were young and saw yourself truly. A time you felt, without shame or self-consciousness, that you were wonderful, that you mattered, that you were the center of a story worth telling. It does not have to be a proud moment, just a moment before the world taught you to see yourself as small. Find one, let it come, and do not just think about it. Drop into the felt texture of it, into how naturally you perceived your own significance when your synchrony was whole and there was no wall between you and the truth of who you were. Feel how clearly you saw it before anyone told you not to. That, right there, is the sight we are restoring. Not a memory to be nostalgic about, but a capacity to be recovered. And now bring that same quality of clear seeing forward into this present moment, and let a little of it touch the truth I keep speaking, that you are significant, luminous, seen by heaven, right now. Let the childhood clarity of seeing your own worth meet the present reality of the self heaven has seen, and let them become one thing. That transfer, that carrying of childhood sight into the present, is exactly what restoration makes permanent. Now let me speak to the objections still alive in some of you, because I would rather name them than let them quietly steal your restoration. Some of you are thinking, this sounds true, but I have glimpsed my own significance before and gone right back to feeling ordinary. I have answered this, but I will answer it once more. Simply, you went back to ordinary because you were working on the wrong layer. Every glimpse operated above the synchrony, on your thoughts and feelings, and the synchrony sat underneath, untouched. This time, the repair reaches the correct layer. That is the entire difference, and it is not small. It is the difference between straining to see your worth and actually clearing the faculty that sees. Others of you are thinking, but who am I to be significant? I have answered this too, and here is the short form. You are not claiming a significance you invented. Heaven placed it, and heaven sees it, and you are only being asked to agree with the clearer sight. Agreeing with heaven about your worth is not pride. It is the deepest humility, because it submits your dimmed self-assessment to the one who sees perfectly. Set the objection down. It was never the real gate. And some of you carry the quietest and heaviest objection of all. What if I do all of this and still see nothing? What if I am the one exception, too ordinary, too far gone, too blind, to ever see anything luminous in myself? I want to hold that fear gently, because it is not drama, it is scar tissue, from every time you dared to hope you were more, and got taught otherwise. So hear me carefully. The restoration does not rest on your being special enough to have something to see. It rests on a mechanism common to every human being, the synchrony that everyone was born with, and everyone can have restored, and a significance that heaven places in every one of the chosen. You are not asking to be an exception to a rule. You are asking to be included in it, and the rule includes you by default. The only way to be the exception is to never reach for it at all. Reach, and you are inside the rule. Feel those 3 walls come down, because they are the last 3. Glimpsed it and went back to ordinary. Answered, who am I to be significant? Answered, too blind to ever see anything in myself. Answered, there is nothing left standing between you and seeing the self heaven saw, except the simple act of receiving what has been prepared. So let me give your agreement one more place to stand. If every wall has come down, if you AK, If you are willing to stop being the exception and step inside the rule that includes you, type 2 words where you are watching from. Type, I belong. Not, I hope I belong. I belong. Inside the restoration. Inside the company of every person whose sight has come back up and who finally sees the truth of who they are. I belong. Type it and let it be the last stone you lay before you rest. And now notice something about this whole time we have spent together, because it is quietly one of the most important things I can show you. Look at how many times, in these minutes, you have seen. You saw the difference between being ordinary and being blind to your significance. You saw the interference for what it was. You glimpsed the self heaven sees, even faintly, in the practice. You saw what happened last night. Over and over, your dimmed faculty has stirred and reached and seen. Do you understand what that means? It means your sight is not dead. It has been working, however faintly, this entire message. The restoration is not a distant hope. It is something you have already been doing, in real time, for this entire time. All the full repair does is make permanent and complete what you have already proven you can do. So you are not walking toward a stranger, and you are not gambling on a miracle. You are extending into permanence a capacity you have exercised beautifully for this entire message. You saw today. You will see the self heaven saw when the sight is fully restored. And you will keep seeing more and more clearly as the synchrony is tended, until the fraction you have lived on becomes the fullness you were born inside of. That is the whole arc, and you are already well inside it. Now let us go the rest of the way down into rest, and let me seal over you everything that has been shown. Breathe with me. We are almost home. I want to prepare you for how the sight actually returns, because if you do not know what to expect, the interference will use your expectations against you, and I want to take that weapon out of its hand before we finish. When the sight begins to clear, the first thing you see is not always your glory. Sometimes it is the years you missed. A faculty that has been blind for years, when it comes back online, often shows you first everything you could not see before, all the times you settled, all the doors you did not walk through, all the ways you diminished yourself. And it can ache. People are frightened by this, because they expected the restoration to feel like triumph, and instead, it feels, at first, like grief for a life lived too small. If that happens to you, do not mistake the beginning of your healing for a new wound. The grief is the sound of a life being seen truly at last, and it moves through quickly, and it leaves clarity behind it. But it may come first, and it is not a sign that something is wrong. And the second thing to expect is that the sight returns in flickers, not in one permanent switch. There will be a moment when you see your significance with startling clarity, and then a day later the fog may seem to return, and the interference will rush in to tell you it was fake, you imagined it, you are ordinary after all. Do not believe it. A sight being restored clears in flickers, a little more each time, with fogs in between, exactly the way dawn comes in gradually, even though the light keeps seeming to pause. The fogs are not failures. They are the rhythm of a real restoration. Keep tending the sight through the fogs, and the overall clarity grows, until one day you realize the baseline itself has changed, that even your foggy days now carry more sight than your clearest days used to. The third thing to expect is that it will feel quieter and more ordinary than you imagined. You have pictured seeing your significance as some grand, dramatic revelation, and the restoration, when it comes, often arrives quietly, in small moments, a compliment that suddenly lands, a decision you make from worth instead of smallness, a glimpse in the mirror of something you had never seen. Let me tell you now so you are not fooled. The seeing of your true self is usually gentle. It is a gradual recognition, not a thunderclap. Do not wait for the dramatic vision and miss the quiet clarity that is the real form it takes. So here is what you will do. When the grief comes first, you will let it pass and know it is healing. When the sight flickers and the fog returns, you will keep your eyes open and know the dawn is still coming. When it feels too quiet to trust, you will receive it anyway and know that quiet is the truest form it takes. You are now prepared for the whole shape of it, which means the interference has nothing left to surprise you with. It cannot use the grief against you, or the fogs, or the quietness, because you have seen them all coming. You are armed for your own restoration, and a person armed for their own restoration is a person the blindness can no longer stop. Let me tell you what people describe, in their own words, when the sight first clears and they see themselves truly, because I want you to know what is coming, and because hearing it in a life makes it real in a way principle alone cannot. The most common thing people say is that it did not feel like discovering something new. It felt like remembering something they had always known and somehow forgotten. They describe looking at themselves and having a shock of recognition, a sense of, there you are, as if they were being reunited with someone they had lost track of long ago. That is because the self you are about to see is not a stranger. It is the self you knew as a child, before the world taught you to see small, the self that has been there under the fog the whole time. So the restoration does not feel like becoming someone else. It feels like coming home to yourself. The second thing people describe is that the world around them seemed to change, even though nothing external had. Colors seemed more vivid. People seemed more real. The ordinary details of their days, which had been flat and grey, came alive with a significance they had not been able to perceive. This is because the same faculty that lets you see your own significance lets you see the significance of everything, and when it clears, it does not clear only toward yourself. The whole world comes into higher resolution. People describe walking through the same streets they had walked for years and seeing them, truly seeing them, for the first time. The third thing people describe, and this is the one that moves me most, is a grief that turns to relief. They grieve, briefly, for the years they lived without this sight, for the smallness they accepted, for the self they could have been living from all along. And then the grief turns, quickly, into a relief so deep it undoes them. The relief of realizing that it is not too late, that the self was never lost, that they have found it while there is still life ahead to live from it. The grief and the relief come together, and on the other side of them is a settledness, a groundedness, a sense of finally standing on the truth of who they are. I tell you these things so that when they happen to you, and they will, you recognize them as the marks of the restoration, rather than mistaking them for something else. The shock of recognition, the world coming alive, the grief that turns to relief. These are the fingerprints of a sight coming back up, and they are on their way to you, because the threshold was crossed last night, and your sight is clearing today, and the self, heaven saw, is coming home to eyes that are finally opening to see it. You are not walking toward a stranger. You are walking toward a reunion, and it is nearer than it has ever been. I want to help you cooperate with what began last night, because you are not a passive bystander to your own restoration, and there are ways to lean into what heaven has set in motion rather than sleep through the rest of it the way you slept through the beginning. The first way is simply to keep your attention on it. What we attend to grows clearer, and what we ignore fades back into fog. For years you gave your attention to the evidence of your smallness, rehearsing your failures, cataloging the ways you fell short, and that attention kept the smallness vivid and the significance invisible. Now you can turn your attention the other way. When a glimpse of your worth comes, do not rush past it. Linger on it. Let it register. When you catch yourself perceiving something true about your significance, stay with it a moment longer than feels comfortable. Attention is how you cooperate with the clearing. What you keep looking toward is what comes into focus. The second way is to stop rehearsing the old verdict. Every time you repeat to yourself that you are ordinary, that you do not matter, that you are the exception, you are turning your own sight back down, reinforcing the fog with your own words. You do not have to force positive thoughts, which live on the thought layer and do not reach the sight anyway. You only have to stop actively rehearsing the lie. When the old verdict rises, do not repeat it and do not fight it. Just decline to say it one more time. Let it pass unspoken. A verdict that stops being rehearsed slowly loses its grip, and the space it leaves is space the truth can fill as your sight clears. The third way is to act, even slightly, from the self you are beginning to see. You do not have to transform your life overnight, but you can make one choice this week from significance instead of smallness. Walk through one door you would normally have assumed was for more significant people. Decline one thing that is beneath you that you would normally have tolerated. Say one true thing about your own worth that you would normally have swallowed. Each small act from the restored sight teaches your whole system that the seeing is real and reinforces it. The way using a muscle strengthens it. Cooperation is not effort to force the vision. It is small movement in the direction of what you are beginning to see. And here is why this matters now, in this season, and not later. Thresholds have their timing. What crossed over last night is nearest to being realized right now, in the window that has just opened. And windows do not stay open forever. This is not pressure, and it is not a threat. It is simply the nature of appointed seasons. There is a moment when a thing that has been prepared is most ready to be realized, and you are standing in that moment for the self heaven saw. The worst thing you could do is to feel this, be moved by it, and then let ordinary life close back over you until the window quietly passes and you settle back into the fog for another decade. The window is open now. The threshold was crossed last night. Your sight is clearing today. This is the season to cooperate, to lean in, to let the realization complete rather than sleep through the rest of it the way you almost slept through all of it. So do not let this be one more glimpse that fades by morning. Attend to it. Stop rehearsing the old verdict. Act, even slightly, from the self you are beginning to see, and tend the sight on the layer where it actually clears. Cooperate with what heaven began while you slept, and watch what has been set in motion move, in this open window, toward the full realization it was always heading for. I want to return one more time to what happened last night, now that you have seen so much, because there is a deeper layer to it that you are finally ready to hold. I told you that the self-heaven saw crossed a threshold last night, that it moved from being prepared toward being realized. But let me tell you why it happened now, in this season, and not in one of the 1,000 nights behind you. Thresholds are not crossed at random. They are crossed when a readiness is complete, and the readiness heaven waits for is not the readiness you would expect. It is not that you finally became impressive enough, or holy enough, or successful enough. It is that you were finally emptied enough, and aching enough, and near enough to the end of your own effort, for the realization to land as grace instead of as pride. Think about it. If heaven had let you realize your significance in a season when you felt strong and self-satisfied, you would have taken it as confirmation of your own greatness, and it would have fed the wrong thing. But heaven waited until you had been humbled, until the smallness had done its work, until you had come to the end of trying to prove yourself, so that when the truth of your significance finally lands, it lands not as a trophy for your ego, but as a gift that undoes you, that you could never have earned, that you receive with tears instead of pride. The years of feeling ordinary were not heaven forgetting you. They were heaven preparing the soil so that the seed of your realization would grow into something humble and rooted, instead of something proud and shallow. So last night was not early, and it was not late. It was the exact convergence of a self that was ready to be realized, and a person finally emptied enough to realize it without it ruining them. That is why now. That is why, after all these years, the threshold was crossed on this particular night, in this particular season, right before you were brought to hear these words. The timing was not an accident. It was the patience of heaven, waiting for the safest possible moment to let you begin to see what it has always seen. And that moment is now. and you are standing inside it. And here is the final thing I will say about last night, and then I will let it rest. The threshold that was crossed is not something you have to make happen. It already happened while you slept, without your effort. That is the whole point. You have spent your life believing that if you were ever going to become significant, you would have to force it, achieve it, earn it. And heaven crossed the threshold of your significance while you were unconscious, doing nothing, precisely to show you that this was never about your striving. The self heaven saw was placed, not earned. The threshold was crossed by heaven, not by you. Your only part, now, is to let your sight clear enough to see what has already been done on your behalf. That is a lighter task than you think, and it has already begun. So let everything grow quiet now. The teaching is done. The revelation has been given. What happened last night has been told. There is nothing left for you to understand or figure out or reach for. For these last minutes, I only want you to rest in what has already happened, because something has happened, and a thing this real deserves to be honored slowly before you carry it out into your life. Let us begin the rest with gratitude, not the performed kind, but the quiet kind that rises on its own when a person finally sees clearly. Because look at what is true. You came into these minutes believing you were ordinary, and you are leaving knowing that heaven has seen something luminous in you the whole time. You came in a stranger to yourself, and you are leaving having glimpsed, at last, the self heaven has always known. That is not a small shift. That is a life turning on its hinge. And it is worth a moment of still gratitude. I am grateful, on your behalf, for the ache you carried all these years, the sense that you were more than you could see, because that ache was the one thread of truth the blindness could never fully cut, and it is the reason you are here now, at the edge of realization, instead of having settled forever into a smallness you fully believed. I am grateful for the part of you that kept whispering, there is something more, even when every mirror said ordinary, because that whisper was your true self, refusing to be entirely silenced, and it kept a door open that this message could walk through. And if there is a heaven that has been watching you across what felt like years of being unseen, I want you to consider being grateful to it now, not for finally noticing you, because it never stopped, but for having seen the luminous truth of you through every year. You could not see it yourself, and for waiting, with an almost unbearable patience, for the safest moment to let you begin to realize it. That is not a heaven that overlooked you. That is a heaven that saw you more clearly than you have ever seen yourself, and loved you enough to wait until seeing it would heal you instead of harm you. Let a little gratitude rise for that. It has been seeing you and waiting for you this whole time. Now simply witness where you are. Do not try to change anything, just notice. Notice that you can see yourself a little more truly than when you began. Notice that some weight of ordinariness is not sitting on you as heavily now. Notice that you have glimpsed things throughout this time, your significance, your calling, the self heaven saw, and that seeing them did not destroy you the way the blindness always warned it would. You are still here. You are seeing more than you were. And nothing bad came of opening your eyes. Let that be evidence your body can keep. Seeing did not cost you. It began to give you back to yourself. We are ready now for the release, which will lift the most weight. So let me bring you into it, settled and open. Everything so far has added something to you. What comes next takes something off of you. The accumulated load of a lifetime of seeing yourself as small, much of which was never the truth. So, take a breath, let your shoulders come all the way down, and prepare to set some things down that you have been holding for so long, you forgot you were allowed to put them down. The releasing begins now, and it is going to make you lighter than you have been in a very long time. I want you to picture all the weight you have carried gathered into your two hands, the verdict that you are ordinary, the shame of feeling like a fraud, the years of settling for less than you deserved, the exhaustion of aching for a self you could not find, the belief that heaven overlooked you. Picture it all, heavy, in your open hands. And now, as I speak, we are going to set it down, piece by piece, and you are going to grow lighter with each one. Release the verdict that you are ordinary. It was never the truth. It was the fog, manufactured to hide something luminous. Let that verdict fall from your hands now. Release it. Release the shame of feeling like a fraud. You were never a fraud. You were a significant person who could not see the self their own accomplishments flowed from. Release the imposter. Let it fall. Release the years of settling. You did not settle because you were weak. You settled because you could not see a self worth more, and that sight is being restored. Release the settling. Let it fall. Release the ache of searching for a self you could not find. The self was never missing. It was unseen, and it is coming into view. Release the desperate searching. Let it fall. Release the belief that heaven overlooked you. Heaven has seen you more clearly than you have ever seen yourself the whole time. Release the lie of being overlooked. Let it fall. Release the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" It is not humility, and it is not honesty. It is the interference that has kept you blind for years. Release it. Let your hands open all the way. Let it fall. Release the fear that you are too ordinary to be one of the significant ones. You are inside the rule, not outside it. Release the fear of being the exception. Let it fall. Release the striving to become someone worthy, the endless effort to earn a significance that was placed in you and never had to be earned. Release the striving. Let it fall. And release, last of all, the version of you that had made peace with being small. Thank that version, because it protected you through a long blind season. And now, gently, release it, because you do not need it anymore. Let it fall. Let it all fall. Feel your hands. They are empty now. And nothing terrible happened when you set the weight down. You are lighter, and you are still standing. And you can see yourself a little more truly than a moment ago. This is what you were afraid to do for years. And it turns out that setting the weight down was never the danger. Carrying it was. And now that your hands are empty, they are finally able to receive the sight of the self heaven saw. That was the whole reason for the release. Not to leave you empty, but to empty your hands so they could be filled with the truth of who you are. Keep them open. Into these open, emptied hands, we are about to place the truest thing of all. So speak these with me, or if you cannot speak them aloud, let them be spoken over you and receive each one into your open hands. This is who you are. Underneath everything the blindness convinced you that you were. I am not ordinary. I never was. The ordinariness I saw was the fog, and the fog is lifting. I am not a fraud. I am a significant person, and my accomplishments flow from a self heaven has always seen. I am not too small for a significant life. I have been unable to see the largeness that was placed in me, and now I am beginning to see it. I am not overlooked by heaven. I have been seen more clearly than I have ever seen myself, every day of my life. I am not too far gone to see. I am inside the rule that includes every chosen one whose sight comes back up. I am the one who perceives. The seeing I lost is returning, and I will read the truth beneath the surface of things again. I am the one who ends the blindness in my line. The unrealized significance stops with me, and the ones who come after me will see themselves clearly. I am the wounded healer of the unseen. My years of feeling ordinary become the map by which I help others see the luminous self they cannot yet perceive. Heaven saw something about me, and last night it crossed the threshold toward being realized. And I am beginning, at last, to see what heaven has always seen. I am significant, not because I earned it, but because heaven placed it in me before I was born, and it has been there, luminous and true, the whole time. Feel that. These are not affirmations forced against the evidence. They are descriptions of what has been true underneath the blindness the whole time, coming into the light because your sight is finally clearing enough to let them in. This is not you pretending to be more. This is you stopping the pretense that you were ever the small, ordinary, overlooked person the blindness told you that you were. And let me give you one last place to make this yours, because a declaration sealed by your own hand holds in a way a declaration merely heard does not. This is the final one. Wherever you are watching from, declare it with your hands. Type 3 words. Type I am seen. Present tense, because heaven has always seen you and you are only now beginning to see yourself. I am seen. Not, I will be. I am. Let your hands make the declaration your whole life is going to spend the coming season proving true. I am seen. Type it, and let it stand as the seal of everything shown to you here. And let it stand guard, so that when the blindness tries to whisper that you are ordinary again, you can look back and find, in your own hand, the moment you declared the truth. Now there is only one thing left to do, and it is the gentlest of all. Everything has been taught, released, and declared. What remains is to seal it, and to send you out of these minutes into your life, able, at last, to see the self that heaven saw. So, let the energy come down now, slowly, from the peak of the declaration into the deep still place where things are sealed. Breathe. We are at the very end now, and the end is quiet, and it is holy, and it is yours. Let me seal this over you. Before I seal this, I want to speak protection over you, because you are leaving these minutes carrying something valuable, and valuable things get reached for. I told you the interference concentrates on the ones who carry something significant, and you are now one who has begun to see their own significance, which means the days right after this may bring a push to blind you again, to convince you that today was only a nice feeling, and that you are ordinary after all. I do not tell you that to frighten you. I tell you that to arm you, because a push you expect has almost no power, and a push you understand has none at all. So here is your protection. In the coming days, when the old blindness tries to return and whisper that you imagined all of this, that heaven did not really see anything in you, that you are as ordinary as you always feared, you are going to recognize the voice. You will not argue with it. You will name it as the interference it is, the same voice that has kept you blind for years, and you will keep your sight where it has been cleared. And the naming alone will loosen its grip, because it only ever had power while it was hidden. I speak that recognition over you now as a permanent defense. The interference will never again be anonymous to you. You have seen its face. It cannot work on you the way it did before. And I speak protection over the sight that cleared in you today, that it would not be a candle the next hard morning blows out, but a coal that stays warm underneath everything and can be fanned back to flame whenever you return to it. You will have hard, foggy days still, but a foggy day for a sight that is being restored is a different thing than a foggy day for one that has given up, because you now know that the fog is a dimmed setting and not the truth, and knowing that changes everything about how you meet it. Now let me seal this, slowly, because a seal is not a rushed thing. What has been shown to you today is sealed. The truth that the blindness was never your fault. Sealed. The truth that heaven has seen something luminous in you the whole time. Sealed. The naming of the interference and your authority to refuse it. Sealed. The blessing over your sight, your mirror, your calling, your decisions, your relationships, and your bloodline. Sealed. The release of every weight you set down. Sealed. The declaration of who you truly are underneath the blindness. Sealed. And the truth of what happened last night, that the self heaven saw crossed the threshold toward being realized. Sealed. And you are not alone in this, though the blindness told you for years that you were. Right now, in this same moment, others are receiving this same restoration. Others who carried something luminous and never saw it. Others whose sight was dimmed by the same tired world. Others who are beginning, at last, to see the truth of who they are. You are part of a company of people coming into sight together. A quiet awakening happening in more hearts than you know. The loneliness of the blindness told you that you were the only one who felt this ache of unseen significance. You were never the only one. You are one of many, and there is a strength in that you can lean on when your own feels thin. Somewhere tonight, another luminous, unseen person is beginning to see themselves clearly at the very moment you are. You are not the last of a dying thing. You are among the first of a returning one. There is almost nothing left to say now, and what is left is small and quiet and holds the weight of everything before it. So let me bring you all the way home and speak the last words over you and send you into the life that is waiting. Stay with me for one more breath. The very end is the gentlest part, and I have saved it for you. So let me speak over the days ahead, because they matter, and I do not want you to walk them unblessed. Tomorrow, when you wake, the fog may still be there, and I want you ready for that, because the interference loves to use the very next morning to convince you that nothing happened here. If tomorrow you look in the mirror and see the old stranger, do not panic and decide it did not work. The restoration is a clearing of a sight that was dimmed for years, and a sight dimmed for years does not always come to full clarity the first morning. Sometimes it clears in stages. So if tomorrow the fog returns, you are going to say, "This is the old blindness, not the truth," and the sight is clearing, and the self heaven saw is coming into view. And you are going to keep your eyes open and tend the sight, and not let one foggy morning rewrite everything you saw today. And over each day this week, I speak a small clearing. A moment, on Monday, when a compliment actually lands instead of bouncing off. A moment, on Tuesday, when you catch a glimpse of your own significance and, for once, do not immediately shrink it. A moment, midweek, when you perceive something beneath the surface of a situation that you would have missed last week, and you remember this, and you know your sight is coming back. I speak these small clearings over your week, like the first light before dawn, each one a sign that the full sight is returning, each one building toward the day you see the self-heaven soar in its fullness. Watch for them. Name them when they come. Let each one strengthen you for the next. And I speak over you a lasting clarity, that the sight which cleared in you today would keep clearing, until the luminous self heaven has always seen becomes a self you can see and live from every ordinary day. I speak that the ache of being unseen, which you have carried your whole life, is being answered, not by the world finally noticing you, but by your finally seeing the self heaven noticed all along. That realization is coming. I have watched it come for others. It is coming for you, and it is nearer than it has ever been, because last night the threshold was crossed. And I speak over your future self, the one a year from now, who will look back at this moment as the hinge on which everything turned. That future you is real, and that future you is grateful to the you of today for staying through this whole message, for keeping your eyes open, for letting yourself glimpse the self-heaven saw when the blindness told you to look away. Everything that future you becomes traces back to the fact that you did not scroll away today. You stayed. And staying was the first act of the seeing life. It has already begun. You began it by not leaving. So now I bring you all the way home. Let the breath slow all the way down. Let the room grow quiet. Let your open hands rest. What has been shown to you is sealed, and what has been released will not be picked back up, and what has been declared is true, and what happened last night has already begun to change everything. There is nothing left for you to do in this moment but rest in it and let it be, and carry it out into your days like a coal that stays warm underneath everything. You are a chosen one. Your sight was dimmed, and it is being restored. You were never ordinary. You were unable to see the luminous self heaven placed in you, and that is ending. Heaven saw something about you, and it has been waiting your whole life for you to see it too. And last night, it came nearer than ever. You are about to realize what heaven has always known. See it, Chosen one, it is seen, it is sealed, it is done, and so it is.